Okay, staff, we ready to go? IT, we ready to go? Okay, welcome. We've got a full house tonight. You guys must have heard about our legendary fun meeting, so thank you and welcome. Tonight, it is 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Long,
Here.
Commissioner Madrid,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Vice Chair Diedrich,
Here.
Chair Ledoux.
And I am here. Chris, do you want to lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Does he? Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any modifications to tonight's agenda?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. We'll need approval of tonight's agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, moving on to item number 6, public comments. These are public comments for things that are not on tonight's agenda. Do we have any requests to speak?
None.
All right, is there anybody in the audience that wants to talk about anything that's not on tonight's agenda? Okay, moving on. Can I ask the Planning Commission for approval of the October 9th, 2024 minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can we silence the phones, please? Thank you. All right, moving right along, right into it. Item 9.1, could the Deputy Community Development Director please present this item?
Thank you, Chair and Commission. Following item will be presented by our Assistant Planner, Kimberly Luna. She usually works on our advanced planning projects, but she's going to help us out with this one, so thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The item before you tonight is the Newport Road Medical Office Building, Plot Plan PLN 24003 and Variance Number PLN 24004. The proposed project is located north of Newport Road, about 700 feet east of Bradley Road. The project site is surrounded by medical offices to the east and a storage facility to the north and west of the project site. The general plan, land use, and zoning designation is Economic Development Corridor Newport Road. The project proposes a 9,103 square foot, 2-story medical office building on a vacant 0.76 acre infill site. The variance will reduce the rear setback from 15 feet to 7 feet for a portion of the building adjacent to the existing self-storage facility. The proposed building will be located in the upper northwest corner of the project site. Access will be provided through 2 driveways. One is an existing driveway that will be shared with the existing medical offices to the east, and the second access will be provided and will include a deceleration lane in order to not restrict the flow of traffic on Newport Road. Both driveways will be right-ins and right-outs. 46 parking spaces will be provided. They were required to provide 46. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the rear setback from 15 feet to 7 feet for a portion of the building adjacent to the existing self-storage facility. The existing storage units located just north of the property line are right up against the shared property line where they were constructed with no setback along the property line. This existing storage units will reduce any potential impact from the proposed development. The project site is also an infill development site, and due to the small size of the lot, there were development constraints to make sure all the development standards could work. We worked with the applicant to ensure all other development standards were being met. Findings have been drafted in support of the variance and are included in the resolution attached to the staff report. Here we have what the landscaping will look like. The project includes landscaping totaling 4,499 square feet, all on-site landscaping, and 564 square feet of landscaping in the right-of-way will be privately maintained, and the landscaping along the right-of-way will buffer the parking lot with the screening of use of shrubs and trees. The proposed architecture is a modern style. The building was designed for the primary entrance to be the focal point of the building, with the glass extending up to 25 feet on the southeast corner of the building. Here's a rendering of what that looks like. Public notices were sent out on October 13th for this meeting tonight. All relevant agencies and interested parties were noticed. We did provide on-site posting, and we received one letter included in your blue folders tonight. The environmental determination has been determined to be exempt under CEQA guidelines section 15332, class 32 infill development projects. The project is consistent with the general plan and the zoning code. It's within the city limits and it is smaller than 5 acres. There's no value for endangered species, no significant effects, and it will be adequately served by all utilities. With this, it's staff's recommendation that Planning Commission determine that the project is categorically exempt under CEQA guidelines section 15332, class 32 infill development projects, and adopt a resolution approving plot plan number PLN 24003 and variance number PLN 24004. This concludes staff's presentation. We are available for questions.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. Great presentation. The IT, can you go back to the elevations that said architecture? The one question I had was the pictures of the building are white and black, I think were the colors. The surrounding buildings are kind of tan, beige, brownish. What's going to be the color of the building?
The color is proposed to be like gray, black. We did look at surrounding uses that did use those colors. So the Wendy's across the street a little bit more to the east does use that black color.
Okay.
And also the Chick-fil-A that was just approved has that white color as well. So not right next door, but surrounding Newport, we do see those colors being used.
Okay.
So they do meet the design guidelines.
So this color that we're looking at here, this is what the building's going to look like?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions for staff? Go ahead, Joe.
I have a question about parking for disabled. I saw it on page 9. There are 2 lots. How many lots do you have for disabled parkings?
I believe the building code does require the 2 lots, and I think they are meeting that. But we can take a look and make sure that
Because
we
for
meet
a
that number.
medical building, it's not typical population coming. It's most likely the sickness, the disabled coming. So I would really like to ask for more attention on the parking for disabled drivers.
The building code has a restrictions and requirements for parking, and is based on the amount of parking that's existing offer for an able body, and the percentage does not make much of distinctions on medical facility. But there is a percentage of the existing parking that's required.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. I'm kind of disappointed, but I take your answer. Another question about ambulance driving in for pickup or for delivery. Is there a way for ambulance services coming in and picking up clients also, dropping off and pick it up?
Commissioner Long, there's not a specified drop-off location for ambulance. Again, this is a medical office, and we can have the applicant elaborate, but our understanding is the medical office it's a standard medical office that will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. With no emergency services.
Thank you.
Joe, any other questions for staff? All right, anybody else have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead.
So, Orlando, were there any specific challenges regarding CEQA? That pretty slam dunk.
No, there are several categorical exemptions that CEQA allows staff to use. In this particular case, infill was the appropriate exemption that was used that met all the specific requirements.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing at 6:10 p.m. Madam Clerk, was this hearing legally noticed?
It was.
Okay, thank you. And did we receive any correspondence?
Yes, we did. It's in your blue folders.
Thank you. Thank you for calling it blue, too. They usually call it red for some reason. I don't know. All right, the applicant's here. Would you mind joining us up on the podium, introducing yourself, please? Thank you, sir.
My name is Al Burkhardt. I'm principal of BDG Architects based in Temecula.
Thank you, Al. First question for me is, as the applicant, do you agree to all the conditions of approval?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? No questions for the applicant? Wow, okay. No, I'm sorry. You'll have a chance to speak if you want to, but at this point, no, not yet.
Question.
Okay.
So, sir, are you a doctor there?
No,
So you're the applicant?
I'm the architect.
You're the architect?
You're
Okay.
representing the applicant, right?
I am.
How many offices are there going to be there?
2. Yeah, the goal, Dr. Brian Wynn, internist, will take the entire ground floor. And he is now working with some other doctors to take the entire second floor, one office.
Very good. Thank you.
No other questions for the applicant?
Not for me.
Okay, Joe, go ahead.
Just a follow-up question. Will there be any radiation equipment to be used at the site?
There is no radiology equipment in this building, at least not in Dr. Brian Wynn's suite. We don't know if anybody would need that on the second floor. But most of the, put you at ease, most of the newer radiology equipment is low emission. And if they do put some in, we would put lead shielding on those walls.
Great, thank you.
So you don't have a tenant for the second floor yet? Is it like going to be built out as like spec or?
Right now, it's going to be in shell condition
Shell, okay.
until Brian signs a contract with another tenant.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, for the elevator, is it ADA compliance? For
Yes,
the
it is.
elevator? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
We have one.
Okay.
Juan Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and Planning Commission. My name is Juan Gutierrez. I'm a member of the Western State Regional Council of Carpenters. I live in the area. I live, work, and recreate in the vicinity of the project. Believe that I will be impacted by the environment impacts of the project. The city should require the project to be built with contractors that will hire locally, pay prevailing wage, and utilize apprentice for state-certified apprenticeship training programs. Workforce requirements reduce construction-related environment. Impact will benefit and local economy of workforce development. In a recent 2020 report titled Putting California on the High Road, a Job and Climate Act plan for 2030, the California Workforce Development Board concluded that investing in growing diversity and upskill California workforce can provide effective return on climate mitigation efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan, appreciate it. Just as a side note, outside of the scope of the Planning Commission to require the applicant to use any kind of specific workforce, so that's just a side note. Are there any other requests to speak?
There are none.
Okay. Well, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Can you join us at the podium, introduce yourself, and then afterwards see the clerk to fill out a little slip? Thank you.
I appreciate the time. Completely unprepared. My name's Chris McCann. My wife and I are business owners in the adjacent business park. Commissioner Long brought up a question, two good questions about parking, in general, parking, and then ambulance access. The interrelationship between these two projects is news to me. So we have 126 parking spaces in our space. The rear gate of our property is locked. And I want to share a couple of different stories about it being locked. But we now have 126 spaces that will need to exit through that front shared parking spot, driveway. And there also, it appears on the drawing that there is an added stop sign. So there'll be a stop sign for us coming out and then a stop again at the street. The inconsistency of the development that we have and the occupancy that has been permitted in our complex just doesn't work, right? I mean, I go back 8 years when there wasn't a center median, so you used to be able to exit and turn left. And, we can no longer do that. We also have the back gate closed. In the front building there, directly adjacent to this development or proposed development, is an urgent care and an imaging center, both which are high traffic uses. The urgent care in particular, we have some number of times per month, I won't say weekly, but we will have an ambulance and a paramedic show up. And if we could get a picture of the plot plan, block the driveway, but then further, they have to exit, right? And they go out the back, they turn to get to the locked gate. And I would tell you, I personally have watched them working a code on a guy in the back of an ambulance doing chest compressions while they're trying to find the keys to open the gate. So the consistency of what we've allowed as an occupancy with what the use case is no longer works. And now we're being asked to share an exit. Well, I mean, now this is this snarky part of me. Why don't we put a gate like we have at this driveway that would allow the fire department through if they needed, but that we block off and we don't have to share the driveway? I'm exceedingly concerned for the use. We have 8 dental offices, a number of other large practices in that park, and we will sell out, is what I like to use, sell out the parking lot where we have people waiting for parking. And then you talk about parking in their complex, and how's that going to work? How are we going to have people in our already full, oversold parking lot, either taking their spaces or them with 2 booming practices, 9,100 square feet, coming into our complex, and again, with 1 exit. So, I mean, there's a couple of things that I'd like to ask if we could consider. What's the traffic flow look like? Should the back gate now be opened? The world has changed, right? We have a center median.
Your time is up.
We have a lot of traffic. I do appreciate it.
Chris, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
IT, can you put that, what you have up on our screens, can you put it up on the screens behind us, please? Thank you. Staff, this is a separate project from next door, and I understand the concerns. Medical office minimum parking requirements are 5 to 1, right? Generally, as a commercial appraiser, I encounter that all the time. That's typical for medical office being 5 to 1 parking. This project meets that minimum parking requirement, correct? Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other audience members that would like to speak on this item? Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. It is 6:20. Comments amongst ourselves, gentlemen?
Maybe staff can comment on was the traffic study even done for this small of a project?
No, since this qualifies for an exemption, no traffic study is required. In terms of VMTs, this type of use and size screens out from CEQA requirement.
So, is the neighbor required to offer reciprocal use of his driveway?
If we can pull up the site plan again.
Well, yeah, yeah, it looks like a third of it, maybe?
The property to the east, obviously, as the previous speaker indicated, it's been in operation for several years. It was actually approved back in the county, constructed back in the county, and it was originally designed for this to have a shared driveway. So if you look at the existing conditions, part of the existing driveway, which is already constructed, actually it's currently on the proposed site. So this was always intended to be a shared driveway. So this project will be completing the driveway to allow for better circulation and better exiting from the property to the east. In addition to that, obviously, the proposed project has a new driveway that will accommodate new egress, ingress as well, and it would facilitate potentially the ability for tenants or drivers from the other space to have a secondary exit if needed.
If there was an ambulance blocking the...
That's
So the legal functioning of this new parcel does require a secondary access? Is that what you're saying, the second exit? Could this parcel function if it did not use that shared driveway legally, as far as emergency access and things like that?
It would, because it has its own driveway, correct?
Okay, so this is extra. And is there a reciprocal parking or access agreement that has to be made between the two parcels?
It would be reciprocal access only. There's no parking because they're not sharing parking.
And we meet the minimum parking
Yeah.
requirement
Yeah, okay.
as a standalone.
But there is going to be a reciprocal access agreement?
Most likely, the existing site already has something in place because when it was approved,
Oh.
it was probably conditioned to do this because that's the way it was designed.
So I'm just trying to address the concerns of the owner of the property to the east. In staff's opinion, I don't know if you have any kind of a trip count or anything on his that would validate his concern that this will cause traffic jams or unsafety in them exiting their parcel?
Staff is aware of the general parking concerns on that facility. Again, when the project was approved, the county did have that secondary gate on the back as an EVA only, emergency vehicle access only. So that's why it is, because again, it goes into a residential neighborhood, so that's why it's closed. It's a narrow lot, probably constrained to have multiple access points, and the way it was designed and approved back then, it was just with one access point with obviously multiple tenants.
So the short answer is the county designed it this way. It was intended to be built this way as a shared.
Yeah,
access
and
driveway.
staff's opinion is that this project would actually assist and help with the circulation overall because it would provide for a secondary exit point if needed.
Okay. And also personally, I'm glad to see that this lot's getting built on, personally. I've driven by that and I don't know how many thousands of times, wondering what's ever's gonna go there.
You used to have a building there, right? It housed
I
like
don't
a,
remember what
had a,
was there.
like a mini binds type, like a window treatment type place there.
Oh, okay,
They
that's
tore
right.
that
It was a
building
little
down.
old house,
Yep.
okay. Okay.
Any other questions amongst ourselves, Joe? This is a conversation amongst
Yes.
ourselves.
Oh, I see. I would like to direct my question to the staff again. Maybe I misunderstood. I thought when there is a construction of a shared driveway, there must be an agreement between the two parties. But apparently, I heard it from the other owner. This application is it's not share information, it's not co-design to help both sides. So that's my misunderstanding. So, and if I look at the joint driveway, I see the other side is, the driveway is larger than the subject driveway. Is that correct? Is it supposed to be equal in size?
Typically, what happens in these situations, that particular project had to have enough width to accommodate in and out traffic, correct? So you can tell on the improvements that only a portion of the driveway was completed, and it was enough to accommodate an in and out traffic to accommodate the project to the east. So it was always envisioned for this to be widened and to be completed as a shared driveway.
Is it possible to widen the entrance for the subject side, on the subject side?
This project would widen the entrance to the original design of that was originally intended.
Does the
Thank
new
you.
driveway, once built, meet the city's minimum requirements for the width of the driveway?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
Then the driveway, once it's built, does it meet the minimum standards for driveways in the city?
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion amongst ourselves?
Chair Ledoux, can I offer some additional information?
You do that all the time.
Yeah, sneak up on you. Nick Fiddler, Public Works Director. We work pretty close with the applicant. If you can bring back that exhibit that was just shown. When we were originally working with the applicant, we were looking at just a emergency vehicle exit on the west side. However, we recognize there's a little bit of challenge with the existing driveway. So that's why we tried to enhance the westerly driveway to encourage all the drivers coming to this facility to use that drive approach by putting in the right turn lane and the exit as well. So we are trying to accommodate. You're going to see most people will use that driveway because that's where it's going to be addressed from on Newport. So as you're coming up, they're more than likely they're going to get addressed right in front of that location. And then offering the right turn lane allows them to pull out of the through traffic to slow down and make that entrance. So it's going to be a more comfortable access point. So that's why we encourage to have the dedicated right turn lane in front of that facility to encourage the use. And like was mentioned, it also provides a secondary access to the other facility just in case something does happen and it gets blocked up. So
I'm glad to see the deceleration lane there.
Thank you. And one other question, the speaker mentioned something about a secondary stop sign or something in the...
So what he's talking about is right there where the two driveways meet, there's a little stop sign in case people are coming into the driveway. We can't have them block up the drive throat. So the stop sign is there in case just to show that the person coming off of Newport takes control of that drive access.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to not allow you to speak. I apologize. Unless, do we want to reopen the public hearing? And
That is at your discretion, sir.
I'd like everybody to be heard, so we're going to have to reopen the public meeting for you to come up and publicly say something. So it is 6:29. We'll reopen the public hearing. If you want to come up to the podium, and I want to make sure everybody's heard, so I don't want to cut that off. IT, can you bring that same page back up, please? Making you work tonight. Thank you.
So I thought the humor that I found in this was the superimposed fire truck over in front of the building over there. If you look on our side of this property and that curb that's denoted there right as it enters on the right-hand side, that is actually the sidewalk to access the urgent care. So in your mind, superimpose the fire truck over there, right? And then you basically have a blocked entrance. And this is just, I can't buy into that this is going to improve. I have this being a number of problems that go beyond this other project. I'm in support of the project and building the project. You know, it's the back gate being locked. It's us not having, I mean, I'll tell you, we have had a homeless problem back there, and we had an officer involved with a homeless person at our building at night. It's 9 o'clock at night. And backup showed up at the gate and is like looking through the gate, couldn't get to his partner, and had to traverse all the way around. So there's part of how this has been designed, and it just doesn't things have changed from what, you know, in 2008 when it was originally designed, and it's not working together, right? And I'm looking for, like, let's work together. No, to my knowledge, there's no agreement to share a parking space, and it appears to me to be shared. Like, you'd need to be able, not parking, driveway, be able to blend those two together to get out of there. And I am here to tell you, go over there. I challenge the board to go over there tomorrow morning and look at the parking lot. It is pandemonium because of the occupancy that has been permitted in that space. So I know they have a person working on the second floor. It's kind of disheartening to not know who that is and what that could turn into. Yes, it's one unit today, but it could be many units. We had one dental office that was a Medi-Cal dentist. He was seeing 50 patients an hour, right? I mean, it just doesn't work when you get into the constraints of a single parking lot with a single point of access. So I appreciate you taking my time. It was the fire truck part of this. I mean, hit the question Commissioner Long brought up about an ambulance parking spot it should at least be considered. I know it might not be in the rules, but it should be, you know, you got two medical parks next to each other that have regular, I can't express to you how regular we have emergency services in the park with one access point. They block the driveway, nobody can get out, and so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
you.
We'll close the public hearing at 6:32.
So can I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I don't know how we're going to get to go back and forth on here, but what does he want? How can we accomplish that?
It seems to me that most of the concerns are with the adjacent property and the rear access. It sounds to me like the emergency vehicles should probably be more prepared to go in and out of that gate if they need to. And it's a separate project from what we're voting on today, right, Ty? So we're supposed to consider this building, this property only.
But we can also consider the effect of surrounding properties, so that's very permissible here. So I like to ask, when somebody is opposed to a project or an aspect of the project, what do you want? So it sounds like he wants, I mean, he mentioned a gate. He doesn't want access on that shared does not want a shared driveway? Ty, how can we is he allowed to, can we ask some questions? Well, how do we need to make that happen?
Maybe I can just add a couple more suggestions as well, or comments. One, obviously, we have an existing site that it's not functioning the way it should be due to the configuration of the lot and the number of uses and all of that, right? Obviously, it's something that was approved many years ago. There's existing conditions on site that restrict the gate. Obviously, as the speaker indicated, he's a tenant. This is one of the tenants, or maybe one of the owners of one of the buildings. There's multiple owners in that location, if I recall correctly. One of the things is that them as the association or as the owners, they could also come to the city to amend whatever approvals they have currently in place to maybe allow for other options as well, right? But it would have to be a separate process that we would have to review and make sure that it's vetted through, police, fire, and all the other departments.
That might seem like your best bet. We're not allowed to go back and forth with you, but that might be your best bet to bring your HOA board to the city and see what you can do about that rear gate or anything else. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Any other questions for us? Dan?
Questions or comments?
Comments?
I mean,
Discussion?
I'm sympathetic to the tenant. My first office here in town was in Newport Commons, so I'm well aware of the parking constraints there. I always struggled every morning to find a parking spot myself to go to my office and for my clients to get in there as well. And I remember a time the gate was locked and then it was open for a time period and we could go in and out through that back gate, but it goes into residential neighborhoods, and I know that was the issue for why it ultimately got closed back up again. And I think everyone's well aware that I'm not a fan of plans with only one in and out, right? I like having a second backup, so I'm not a fan of it being gated, but again, that's a separate issue from what we're dealing with tonight. I would be in favor of that gate opening, but that's a separate issue, not something we can discuss tonight. I do feel that having these two new entrances there will ease some of that burden, and if there is an ambulance blocking there, now there is an alternate exit that I think would probably be beneficial. And I don't know, it remains to be seen whether users of this new plan will be parking over in Newport Commons. I don't think they're gonna have a parking spot to go use over there, but maybe if anything, hopefully there will be enough spots here that will ease some of the burden over at Newport Commons. So, and I think it's a beautiful building on top of it, so.
Agreed. Comments, Joe?
Yes, yes. In general, I'm in favor of supporting the project. We need a lot of new healthcare services in Menifee. As our population is growing, we really need more healthcare services. And the location is just perfect. It's next to Menifee Marketplace. So you go there, have an examination, and go to all the restaurants or enjoy your day in Menifee. And it's an opportunity for healthcare professionals. It's a great place. Healthcare is the best industry to work. Yeah. So in general, I'm concerned about the traffic circulation. I think the city and the two partial owners should work together to develop some kind of agreement. But in general, I support the program. More jobs, more tax revenue, more service for our community. So I urge you all to consider those factors.
Thank you, Joe. If there's no other conversation, then there is one resolution for adoption. We'll need a motion and a second to approve staff's recommendations.
Mine's not coming up. My voting thing.
Go back to your presentation.
I'm on agenda, or if I go to presentation.
Back to agenda.
I've been going back and forth.
Wait
a minute. Live meeting. Okay, I gotta go to live meeting.
Got it.
Sorry, guys.
We're good. Sometimes it's not IT. Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you all. We're going to move on to our next item. If you're not here for those, if you want to leave, I'm going to give you a couple seconds to leave so we don't interrupt the next item. So thank you very much. The rest of the meeting is very exciting, but I understand if you want to get out of here. Okay, item 9.2, the Ethanac Business Park. Could the Deputy Community Development Director please present this item?
Thank you, Chair. Following item will be presented by Associate Planner Fernando Herrera.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. The following item is for Ethanac Business Park, which involves a general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, zone change, and plot plan. The project is situated on the west side of Sherman Road, south of Ethanac Road, as we see here, the highlighted parcels. It consists of 3 parcels. The general plan amendment seeks to change the zone, the general plan designation of one parcel from high industrial to specific plan, the Menifee North specific plan. The specific plan amendment will designate this as planning area 2, industrial. A zone change is going to change the zoning designation from heavy industrial to the Menifee North specific plan to be consistent with the general plan. And the plot plan itself is going to be for the construction of a 264,710 square foot warehouse, which is going to consist of 254,710 square feet of warehousing area and 10,000 square feet of office space. Just to simplify things, if that was a little too much, this is the exhibit which will show the general plan changes. So we're basically just changing that sliver from heavy industrial to specific plan. Again, they're both industrial type uses. So just for consistency purposes and the application of the development standards. And then likewise with the zoning designation, when we make changes to zoning and specific plans, the general plan had to be amendment. So that's why all three of these are being processed at the same time. And that's what the specific plan will now look like. So there was that little sliver that was left out. This is what the site plan is proposed to look like. So there is 2 points of access. There's 168 auto parking vehicle spaces that will be required, and 168 have been provided, of which 34 are going to be for electric vehicles, 6 are compliant with ADA requirements, and of those, 2 will be ADA and EV charging stations. Landscaping is consistent with the requirements of the specific plan. This is what the palette of the tree species is going to look like on site. The applicant has worked with staff to ensure that it is all met. Additionally, along Sherman Road, there is going to be a 6-foot berm that's going to enhance the buffer so that the loading area will not be visible from the public right-of-way and will be landscaped with trees and shrubbery. This is what the proposed architecture will look like. So this, they worked with staff to enhance it, ensuring that the 50-foot requirement for plane breakage is met. They did incorporate some stone veneer and tan and earth tones into the building. This is what a proposed rendering would look like of the architecture of the building. Public notices were sent out on September 22nd for today's meeting. All relevant public agencies were also notified, and as well as property owners with an 800-foot radius. On-site posting was provided. We did receive 4 comments from 4 public agencies, which included the City of Paris, Riverside County Flood Control, and what was it? RTA, which was a standard no comment comment. The city of Menifee conducted an environmental determination as well as an ISMND, and a mitigation monitoring program was prepared for the project, which identifies all the mitigation measures required for the project. And it was determined that it would not have a significant effect on the environment with the incorporation of these conditions. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission adopt a mitigated negative declaration based on the findings incorporated into the initial study and the conclusion that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment, and direct staff to file a notice of determination, as well as adopt a resolution recommending to the City Council to adopt General Plan Amendment number PLN 23-0173, Specific Plan Amendment PLN 23-0175, Zone Change PLN 23-0174, and Plot Plan PLN 23-0171. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant, as well as the CEQA consultant, are available for questions.
All right, Fernando, thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have any questions on this for staff at this time? Joe, go ahead.
One question on page 40, residential exposure scenario. There's an existing residence located on Ethernet, which is very close to the subject. Such a property would present an incompatible in terms of transition. So I'm concerned about it.
Yes, so the project was designed for that very reason, for the loading areas to be facing the east, so they wouldn't affect the residential properties. The bulk of the project, which is going to be the offices, is going to face the west, the residential property, so that way there won't be a significant impact to them.
That's traffic impact. How about air pollution, noise, and light pollution?
So as previously mentioned, ISMD was conducted for the project, which did analyze all of the requirements, so which includes greenhouse gases, air quality, as well as noise, any impacts that would result from the project. And the project did comply with the City of Menifee standards of development, which includes all of this. The project did fall within these standards.
Thank you. And on page 98, the site would create a significant hazard to the public or environment through routine traffic use and disable of hazardous material. What kind of mitigation measure would the applicant take? On page 98.
So for that one, it's going to be mitigation measure MMHAZ-1, which is going to include the condition for a soil management plan, which is going to look at including but not limited to the land history, the land use history, the nature and extent of previous investigations and remediation of the site, identified areas of concern at the site, names and positions of individuals involved with soil management, an earthwork schedule, requirements for specific health and safety plans to be prepared by all contractors at the proposed project site, hazardous waste determination and disposal procedures, requirements for site-specific techniques to minimize dust management stockpiles, and then as well as copies of all relevant permits and closures for the regulatory agencies involved.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe, real quick, can you talk right into your mic? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
For the Sherman Road, would the developer improve the whole block road or just directly the partial? Because all the truck traffic is going to be traveling the whole block, not only the whole block, but the Southern Road and as well. So the developer need to develop the whole street with full street light signals at both ends.
Yeah, so for the project itself, the project is going to be conditioned to do improvements in the frontage, which is going to be ultimately for 4 lanes, but there will be transitions that will be incorporated facing north. At the intersection of Ethonac Road and Sherman Road, it will be improved to add a westbound left truck turn lane and an eastbound left turn lane, and widening the corners to allow safe turning of trucks onto Sherman and Ethonac Road.
Thank you.
And they'll be improving Sherman from Ethonac all the way down to the south end of our property, right?
It's going to be conditioned for the frontage, but there will be transitions to that.
Can I jump in on this one, guys? So I asked staff specifically about that, about from the northern boundary of the property up to Sherman. They are only paving it like 2 lanes, but is it correct that the warehouse directly to the east and below this one, the combination of all those will complete a 4-lane clear up to Ethonac?
Yeah, if you notice on the previous approved plan, the frontage is a lot larger on the east side. So when they have that developed, that's going to be a 4 lanes go all the way to the frontage. But for this project alone, if this comes alone now first, is only the 2 lanes going to Ethernet.
But ultimately, the larger question here is that it will be a 4-lane from
It will be a 4 lane.
all the way up to Ethonac eventually. Not necessarily funded by this project completely, but by the combinations of the projects.
Yes.
And just as background information, the project across the street is the same applicant as well. So obviously, economics of scale, obviously, most likely they're gonna be doing all the improvements at once, and that's a question you can also go ask the applicant as well when.
I wanted
Good
to
question,
ask,
Joe, thanks.
I wanted
Go ahead,
to ask
Randy.
Alberto, so the structural section now, as it is adequate?
Yeah, it's 2 lanes. So they're gonna improve their frontage for half plus 12, half of the street plus 12. But moving north is at 2 lanes, yes, sir.
What is that street section?
If you're talking about the street section, that's gonna be, just a second here. It's a major road. So it's a
Okay,
major
and-
road, that one there.
And it's designed for heavy vehicle, 18-wheeler, whatever, 6/12 or whatever is
That's what
required
it's
out there.
designed, yes.
And it's already existing right now, that struct section,
Yeah,
right?
whatever is not already designed for in final grade, they're gonna be tested and they're gonna be improved.
Okay, thank you.
Randy, questions for staff? No? Chris? Joe?
Yes. What are hours of operation for truck delivery? And also, what are hours of operation for employees?
So I'm actually going to go ahead and defer that question to the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah, these are questions for staff at the moment. Any other questions for staff?
I actually have
Sherry,
when you're
I'm sorry, if I can just add one comment, over here, sorry. In terms of CEQA analysis and impacts, the project was analyzed as a 24-hour operation, so the way it analyzes the worst-case scenario. But in terms of specific tenant, if the applicant has a tenant already in mind, they can tell you who that is and what hours they're planning on, and also employees as well.
Thank you, Orlando.
So they're being conditioned to go into the road and bridge district. Is some of those fees, are they allowed to be used for the freeway wide on-ramps, widening, or the bridge Ethernet, or is that strictly a Caltrans funding thing?
So there is a fair share. This is on item 84 for the conditions of approval. So there is a fair share to be paid for I-215 southbound Itanek Road. The project will be contributed for the fair share cost with 0.07%. It's a small percentage that's going to be involved on that. The same thing with the northbound ramp is another 1.5% of fair share that's going to be included on that. And again, there'll be something for Trumbull Road.
But that's in addition to the road and bridge district, or does that include that?
This is if they have the RBBD form, because it's not RBBD formed yet. When that gets to be formed, they're going to be paying that on the RBBD instead of be the fair
And
share.
that's an ongoing district, right, for ongoing maintenance, or is it for improvement only? One-time improvement?
That's for improvement.
It's just for improvement, okay.
Do we have a survey for estimate of new traffic generation from this project?
Yeah, when there was a traffic impact study done, and they have, this is specific for this project, but into that was also included cumulative study for all the development that are on the site within a certain radius.
Do we have it here? Do we have it in our document?
That is correct. That's part of the CEQA document that was prepared that included not only a traffic study or a TIA, it also included noise study and various other studies that are required as part of that CEQA document.
And the current condition on Ethernet should be able to handle the traffic?
According to the study, yes.
Thank you. The concern I have is Ethernet is not only a commercial street, but also a residential street, so and business traffic. So 3 combination of different traffic on the same road. It's a concern. Thank you.
Joe, I think that's part of the discussion that we can have when we get down further
Yeah.
into the project. We can discuss our concerns. But do you have any specific questions, any more specific questions for staff?
That's it.
Okay. Any more specific questions for staff? Okay, let's move along. We're going to open the public hearing. It's 6:54 PM. Madam Clerk, was this hearing legally noticed?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. And did we receive any correspondence?
We received a letter staff in your blue folder.
Thank you. All right, the applicant's here, correct? Would you mind joining us at the podium and introducing yourself, please?
Well, good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is John Kelly. I'm with Core 5 Industrial Partners. We are the developer and the property owners of Ethanak Business Park. So,
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do you agree to all of the conditions of approval?
all 252? Yep. Quite a few.
Can you quote each one of those?
Each one of them.
My quick question for you is it your intention to, so you're the applicant for the a few
That's correct.
surrounding developments as well. Is it your intention to develop them all together? And the
No.
reason behind my question is because of the concern about the roads.
Yeah, it's a kind of two-part question. So we will be developing the first building that we got approved a couple years ago, Menifee Commerce Center. And that's going to construct most of the street improvements.
Is that building 1 or building 2?
That's building 1.
Building 1, so
Yeah.
that's on the east side of Sherman.
That's on the
Across
east
the
side of
street.
Sherman. That's correct. So, but this project was approved on a standalone basis per
Understood.
CEQA, right?
Understood.
So based off that, I think we already talked about some of the street improvement requirements. But
So
that-
so you're developing building 1 first, so that'll be
Yeah,
the half plus 12 on the east side of Sherman, right? And then this building will be half plus 12 on the west side of.
yeah. So, I mean, so here's what we're doing. So we've been working with city staff for a year and a half, as well as flood control, as well as at Southern California Edison, as well as Eastern, Caltrans. We've been working with everybody for over a year and a half. So the plan is to build out Sherman Road, all 4 lanes from the channel, okay, which is at the south end of Menifee Commerce Center in Building 1, all the way up to the north end of the building. Okay, and then it transitions back to 2 lanes plus a left turn lane.
So that's right behind those smaller Ethanak fronting
Yeah.
lots, okay.
So let me jump in on this. So staff, you mentioned in our meetings that there's some right-of-way that needs to be purchased on those houses that are right in between the project and Ethanak. Is that what is preventing the 4-lane to go clear to Ethanak?
Well, well, based off our traffic impact analysis, all we're required to do is add additional lane in both directions and a left turn lane.
Okay, but there's the last parcels between the northern boundary of both your projects
Yeah.
and Ethanak, which is currently housing. That's where it's gonna go down to 2-lane, right?
Yes, yes.
Plus a left turn, so.
Left turn to go westbound.
Yeah,
correct.
so who and when are those 2 lanes gonna become 4? So I've asked it like 3 different ways tonight. From that point up. It's like going from a 1-inch water pipe down to a half
Yeah.
inch. You're gonna have a problem. So what's the timing, staff, on that?
So, as previously mentioned, if this is going to be the standalone project, the improvements would be made for the widening of the improvements in the front portion of this development. But with the inclusion of both projects, that's when you're going to get the improvements for all of the roadway section. So this one, it's been conditioned to have the necessary transitions from the frontage of the project, from the 4 lanes down to the 2 lanes.
Okay, so maybe I'm not asking the question right here. Maybe, I think Orlando, this is your question. How do we get those that final 200 feet, whatever that is, to 4-lane?
Yeah,
I can add-
I understand your question, and I see the Director of Public Works coming in to assist us, but
He's not sneaking up on us this time.
Caught me this time. Chair Ledoux, Commissioner Thomas. There's several components that are happening here. There's several different projects that are occurring, and all the projects have to contribute to an RBBD. So through the RBBD, there'll be collected funds, we'll acquire right-of-ways, we'll build out whatever improvements that aren't conditioned of the various projects to complete not only Sherman Road, but Ethonac, Antelope, Trumbull, all the roads that fall within our circulation element roadway system.
So the short answer is the RBDD is going to do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
as these projects develop, they will be required to pay an RBBD that would facilitate those other improvements.
So in the CIP for the RBDD, I guess from just a practical standpoint, we're going to have, I don't know how many truck traffic trips coming off of this Sherman, and they're all squeezing down to a 2-lane, and the left turn and the right turn are not going to be done until the RBDD funds it. What would you anticipate the timeline is for that happening?
So realistically, like John has said, there will be a through and a left. One of those is going to be will be a left turn trap more than likely, because as people are going northbound, they're not going to continue north on Sherman to go to whatever's north. They're going to go track back to the I-215. Yeah. So ultimately, the 2 lanes northbound will handle the truck traffic that is coming in. So the truck traffic coming from the freeway will enter into a 1 lane, and then it'll open up to 2 as it gets next to the driveways that they'll be pulling into to service the buildings.
Okay. So you're saying that it'll work for now, but again, I don't know if you have a crystal ball timeline on what's the funding on this, on the bridge district? And
so the road and bridge benefit district really depends on how fast the development occurs, and that's what also puts the demand on when those facilities are needed. So there's a couple ways that we can implement the RBBD as these projects come online. They can be conditioned to make those improvements. So that is one way, and the people that build it get credits for their RBBD improvements.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something we need to look at on this, is getting those right-of-ways purchased, getting that last 100 feet built, and then they either get refunded or they get a credit on the RBD, something to that effect. If this was one small, like this standalone project we're looking at, I wouldn't push this issue. But you're, how many square feet do you got of warehouse now, of the combined 3? What's the total core? You're all 3, right?
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking the 3
What's
buildings,
the combination of the 3 square footage?
So we're talking 3, 7, about 1.7 million.
Okay, so we're looking at 1.7 million square feet of trucks servicing, the trucks serving that. And we are funneling 4 lanes down to 2, which could function, but we're asking for a problem there. So I would propose that if you're going to be building this whole block, which is basically what you're doing, that those last 200 feet, that the right-of-way be acquired, the 4 lanes are completed up to Ethonac. What do we need to do to make that happen?
Yeah, let me just kind of interject. So the way the traffic, I mean, we're talking 2 different projects, right? So we're talking this project here, we've already talked about the traffic impacts are minimal. But if we're talking about Menifee Commerce Center, right, that project, that TIA, most of the traffic is truck traffic is going to Dawson. Okay, now we don't have the site plan, but it's just because of the circulation.
So that's the street further east, right? So truck traffic's going east from Building 1 and also east from this current project onto Sherman.
Yeah.
And then what about Building 2, west to Trumbull?
So the Building 2 of Menifee Commerce Center, that traffic will be coming off of Sherman.
Okay, so this building and Building 2 going to Sherman.
Yes.
And Building 1 going to
That's correct.
Dawson.
Is it that different? Is it that different?
I hear you.
Okay, so
Commissioner Thomas, if I may, a couple of things. One, obviously, as part of the process, and I'm gonna ask our consultant and maybe our traffic consultant to come in and assist us, because there was obviously a traffic study that was done that included all the cumulative projects, including the one across the street, that once the analysis was done and completed, recommended certain improvements, and that's basically what's before you tonight, right? So, and those are the requirements that are triggered when this study was completed. So if our traffic consultant can explain that process, and that perhaps will give you some more information.
Hi, my name is Charlene Selm with Urban Crossroads. We prepared the traffic study for the subject project. So the city requires certain analysis scenarios. So initially we look at baseline conditions, and we look at a with project where we're looking at just the contribution of this project's traffic, but we also look at a cumulative scenario where we're taking into consideration the contribution of trips from other projects. In this instance, the Menifee Commerce Center project was a previously approved project, so that project's traffic was incorporated into this study as a cumulative based on the assumptions that were already evaluated in the previous study. So everything is consistent, and so the findings of this study indicate that you don't need any more lanes than what's identified in terms of the left and the shared through right at Sherman and Ethanak.
So you're saying the cumulative traffic study is saying that at Sherman and Ethanak, you're approving that it goes from, you need 4 lanes going up to it, but you don't need a 4th lane to get to Ethanak. So you're saying that that small section is not needed?
Correct. The 4 lanes is not necessarily needed. The 4 lanes is recommended because it's being consistent with what the general plan has identified that roadway to be classified as.
But you're understanding our concern, right?
I do, yeah.
And personally, I mean, aside from
It's bottlenecking is what you're talking about.
I mean, you as an individual looking at this, do you feel comfortable with the way this is designed and not having to have that requirement of that final street be 4 lanes across?
I mean, design-wise, it's not ideal, but functionally it works. Operationally, it works from what the study is indicating. But there's other issues beyond the scope of this traffic study as to why they cannot, or don't have the ability to widen out all the way to Ethanak.
Is Ethanak considered a major or arterial?
It's an expressway.
It's an expressway. Okay, so we're dumping a major road onto an expressway, and yet we're bottlenecking down to 2 lanes. And you're saying that's fine. So nothing to you personally, but in the past, I've been on this commission for years, and I have had issues with some of the traffic studies that they will create on paper, but when you come down to the actual functioning of it, it creates problems.
That's it. For a near-term interim condition, it's fine. But yes, when you do get to ultimate conditions, when you have a 6 to 8 lane facility on Ethanak, you have everything else building out to the west, to the east. Yeah. Yes, you will need all those lanes on Ethanak, and you will need the full section of Sherman. But you don't need that for the interim.
Okay, I guess it's up to the commission if you want to die on this hill or not, but, and I understand, I'm making Fam nervous here because we're talking about this one project, but as a commissioner, I'm looking at the big picture of what the traffic flow is. So, I don't know, is this an issue for you guys or no?
We can talk about that
Okay.
when we get to it, but I tend to agree with you. But right now, we're focusing on
that's
asking
fine.
questions of the
That's
applicant.
fine.
We'll get to that part. But I agree. Do we have any more questions for the applicant specifically? Okay, Joe.
I have a question for the staff.
Joe, we're on questions for the applicant now.
Yes. So you are proposing to build more warehouses at this particular section. The question I have is, how many warehouses we have within a few blocks on this Ethanak Street? Do we have a cumulative study of cumulative traffic generation from all the warehouses to be generated?
Joe, so the applicant said that they're going to be responsible for about 1.7 million square feet of building area, and the traffic analysis said that they considered traffic from all of those proposed buildings. So the traffic study that was done considers all of the traffic from all the buildings.
Would it be better if we wait for the survey to be completed?
It has
Because
been
right now
completed.
we don't-
It has been completed.
Completed?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the,
Oh,
was it Charlene? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Charlene was up here talking about it, and she did the traffic study for the project. Do you want to ask her some more questions?
somehow I'm not impressed with the presentation. Yeah, I'm very concerned about the traffic on Ethernet. I'm concerned about the concentration of the warehouses along the Ethernet, and Ethernet itself is, I understand there are a number of residential projects coming up in the short time.
Joe, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you have questions for?
No.
So this discussion we should have in a couple steps, but
Yes.
right now we're focusing on questions for if you have specific questions for the applicant.
Yes, yeah, okay, no.
No? Okay, Ben, you do, go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe.
For this particular project, do we have a tenant in mind for this particular project?
No, we do not.
Do
Yeah,
not
we'll build the speculative.
build to spec. And do we see it as more manufacturing or distribution or?
It would be more warehouse, maybe, maybe a 20, 30% chance it could go manufacturing or a portion of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Questions for the applicant?
Yeah, John, how much do you have invested in this 1.7 million?
So, well, over 250 million.
So if Commissioner Thomas's concerns are and Long's that there's going to be a bottleneck and it's going to be maybe not functional, that would probably cost you money if it didn't work, right? And you don't have that concern?
No, I do have that concern because you're buying businesses, right? At that intersection, you're buying businesses. And so, but I think we just need to kind of keep in line, we need to focus on this project here, right? I'm happy to talk about Menifee Commerce Center and
Right.
that traffic impact analysis. Go ahead.
Right, and we were told the traffic study was done cumulatively. It was all, the big scope was taken into consideration.
It was looked at for direct and cumulative impacts. The majority of the traffic impacts for this project were cumulative, right? It's just because of the low traffic count.
Right. Yeah, you don't, see, we've got interim and we've got ultimate. So how do you make the two
Yeah.
work? That's always the challenge.
And I think that's what's
So-
confusing everybody. Just because we're building out the 4 lanes doesn't mean that the traffic from the 1.7 million square feet is generating traffic on all 4 lanes. I think that's what we have to keep in mind.
And I can appreciate what a commissioner's saying, but I also appreciate, I think you've addressed all these items with staff for this year and a half or whatever you've been working on it. And I think as a stakeholder, you're more concerned than anyone else, so.
Very much so. I mean, and we've already discussed in great detail Menifee Commerce Center with staff and Planning Commission and City Council a couple of years ago, those traffic impacts.
Right.
And you need to keep in mind what Core 5 is responsible to construct, right? We're putting in 4 lanes on Ethernet Road, putting in 2 traffic signals, modifying the Trumbull Road and Ethernet traffic signal, doing all the Caltrans improvements. We are doing 90% of the bulk of the work. I think that's important to understand. We're acquiring right-of-way along Ethernet Road, okay, to widen it to 4 lanes plus the left turn lanes.
So you're putting all this money out, but you're not bringing any money in.
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's in excess of $35 million for just the off-site improvements.
Right.
But more importantly, I mean, the question is, I know we're talking about a different project here, but we've studied this ad nauseum, where this whole intersection at Ethernet and Sherman, all right? And don't get tripped up over the fact that there's 4 lanes that, these buildings, Menifee Commerce Center 1 and 2, and this building here have to build out the ultimate. That's just because it happens to be a major road. Okay, Dawson has to be it's a collector street, industrial collector street, right? So it's not, and if we would have to dive into that TIA for the 1 million square foot building 1 in Menifee Commerce Center, to really understand the impacts, because there's very little truck traffic coming off of Sherman. Most of the truck traffic, like I said, is coming off of Dawson.
Very good. Thank you, John.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate the time and the back and forth there. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on this item?
We have two.
Okay.
Alex Zamora, followed by John Fox.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Alex. I'm a very proud member of LIUNA, the Laborers International Union in North America. I'm speaking today in support of this project and of the developer. You know, for us, the bottom line is we're trying to put our men and women in our union to work by any means necessary. Partnering with responsible developers like Core 5 means that they're committed to using the top of the line in safety, in people learning from a state accredited facility, learning on the job training, putting apprentices at times with journeymen, learning tricks of the trade, putting the best possible development in front of us for the city of Menifee. I think it's a win on all ends. These minor details are just minor in my mind. I've been around here. Traffic it's tough no matter where you go. You go to a different state, it feels different. You go to a different county, it feels different. I'm well aware of this whole area. I believe we can make it work. I believe this is a great project, and I'm very, very eager to get our people in this area to work on things that directly affect their area that they live in, that the money that they're making on these projects, paying their bills in this city, they're putting back in local businesses and in places all around where they live, and they can, at the end of it, look at it and be proud and tell their family, their friends that they were a part of building something for this great city. So hopefully we can find a way to move past this and start building as soon as we can. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Alex.
John Fox.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is John Fox. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Alshire and Winder, and we serve as the city attorney for the city of Paris. And on behalf of the city of Paris, we must again object to another warehouse project. We have provided comments previously regarding the adequacy of the environmental analysis or the inadequacy of the environmental analysis related to this particular project, including the failure to adequately analyze the project's potential traffic safety impacts. We did challenge another Menifee project in court on that very issue. That was the Ethernac and Barnett warehouse project, and we recently prevailed in that litigation where the court determined that there was substantial evidence to support a fair argument that that project may cause significant traffic safety impacts. So City of Paris has been consistent throughout this about its concerns related to traffic safety, specifically on Ethernac. As you may know, the City of Paris and Menifee have come together to put together a global traffic study that's supposed to analyze all of the impacts from the development of these warehouse and distribution centers throughout this area and come up with the necessary traffic infrastructure to address that. That global traffic study is supposed to be completed in the next couple of months, and there should be a plan that will come together to address this issue globally, as opposed to the piecemeal fashion that you heard tonight, where you're relying upon a single project to develop certain parts. City of Paris, therefore, encourages you not to make a recommendation on this project tonight, but instead continue this matter for at least 6 months to allow for the global traffic study to be completed, for Paris and Menifee to come together to come up with a plan to comprehensively address the issues of traffic safety and truck traffic on Ethernac and the neighboring streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other speakers?
There are none.
All right, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item before we move on? All right, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. It is 7:19. All right, this is our time now to talk about our questions and concerns amongst ourselves. So,
Can I ask staff?
yeah,
something?
go ahead, Chris.
So, being that some of the traffic's gonna go on Dawson, I guess my big question is, this is a major roadway, it's 4-lane. Does staff feel that these two projects don't necessarily need a 4-lane and they could function on a 2-lane?
We feel comfortable with the approval of this in a way that this is being studied for this, and the conclusion was made that it is adequate, and we support the study.
So if the 4-lane didn't exist and it was just a 2-lane, it would still function,
Like they said, the 4-lane was because of the general plan.
the general plan, okay.
So does that mean you feel okay about this?
As long as it
bottleneck?
functions, I'm fine, and as long as ultimately that, if we're gonna build 4 lanes, and ultimately that intersection will be 4 lanes, then I'm okay with it. That's all. I just saw 1.7 million square feet of trucks, and it looks like they needed a 4-lane and going down 2. But if it will function as a 2, and ultimately it will be a 4-lane intersection, then I don't have any problem with that.
And just so I'm crystal clear on this, there is a plan to acquire whatever needs to be acquired at that intersection to make that 4 lanes, right?
I see everyone looking at everyone else.
I'll jump in. I mean, obviously, as Public Works Director indicated, there's going to be an RBBD form, right? So all the projects will be contributing, and as part of that process, the city will do, this process to acquire whatever property is needed to ultimately build to general plan requirement.
Thank you, Orlando.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what Orlando just said. Yeah, we are developing a plan that's through the RVBD, and as developments occur, we make sure that there's adequate infrastructure in place to service those facilities. The ultimate goal is our general plan circulation element. The main tools typically we use is through development, and they require the mitigations as they develop, but the RBBD helps facilitate that faster, because it brings money forward. If the developers don't implement it, as money's collected, the city will take those monies and implement it.
Thank you.
Being that traffic and trucks is probably the biggest political issue in the city right now, I just wanted to be clear. And as other projects come to us, this has to be looked at carefully. So.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yes. My concern about the traffic on Ethernet, there will be a lot of warehouses under construction. It's going to be built in the future. So the traffic on Ethernet is going to be quite busy. I understand the street is going to be improved to expressway. Is it correct? 4 lane turning into 2? For a high traffic, 2 lanes into 2 is not easy, and it's going to cause a lot of problem for drivers. So I'm quite troubled with the 4 lanes turning into 2.
I think it's 4 from our projects here west to the freeway.
Yes.
So moving east, the trucks that are going to be utilizing these projects aren't going to be going further down Ethernet. They're going to be turning into where these projects are.
Right.
Are you referring to Sherman, or are you referring to Ethernet?
I don't know where the 2 lane is going to occur. So, but when you have expressway turning from 4 lane into 2, it's a serious change. And people drive 65 on expressway and turn it into 2 lanes. It's a.
I think there might be a little bit of confusion. IT, can we get the Google overhead shot of this? I'm looking at a page from the staff report that would be good.
Oh.
Sherman. Joe, look.
Okay.
Sherman going north to Ethernet.
Just for clarification, Sherman Road is going to be a major roadway.
So for Sherman Road, would there be street lights at the Ethernet and at the?
There will be a traffic signal at Sherman and Ethernet, where there are, so there'll be modifications to the intersection to add a 3rd lane, which will be a left turn lane. So that'll take the traffic that's going northbound, the 2 lanes going northbound, one will become a left turn lane and one will become a through right lane. So again, I think like staff and John has said that the ultimate 4 lanes is being built in their frontage because that's what development requires. We require full width plus 12 feet. So right now, the 4 lanes aren't completely needed until the rest of the circulation element roadways are built north and south of these facilities. But this is how typical development occurs. We build the frontages as they develop. The full frontages get developed. We build the additional lanes as mitigations require. So we look at the traffic impact analysis and say, review it, and they say, well, you need to add a left turn lane, right turn lane, another through lane. Those are required. For an area like this, it is going to take a lot of time. Ethonac will not be an expressway for several years because right now Ethonac kind of terminates at the railroad tracks. At some point in the future, 74 will be connected to Ethonac, and that's when it will become an expressway all the way through I-215, all the way through Getz, and continuing ultimately all the way to I-15.
Yes.
So,
Joe, did that
Thank
answer
you.
your question about the 4 lanes going to 2? Do you understand where that's at now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. My concern is the Ethernet road is going to be improved by many different developers. And there's no way to tell when all roads
so
will be
we're
completed.
lucky on this one that we do have somewhat of a master developer that is doing a lot of projects within this area. So Core 5 has taken on, this is their 3rd project. They're anticipating, like they mentioned earlier, $35 million worth of public improvements to improve not only Sherman, but to improve Ethonac, Antelope, and Dawson through several projects that they're working on. So this is, it's one of 3 projects, but this is the last of the 3 that will be entitled.
For the Ethernet road, it's on the borderline between the city of Paris and city of Menifee. Do both cities have jurisdiction over the improvement of the street?
They do, because actually Sherman Road, if you look at, I'm looking at the map, if you look at the northwest corner of Sherman and Ethonac, that is basically the boundary. Paris is in the northwest corner, and the city of Menifee is in all the other 3 corners. And as you continue further west along Ethonac, going to Trumbull and then to I-215, Paris is everything north of Ethonac, from Centerline north, and then when you get to Trumbull, they're both sides. So yes, we do have to work with Paris to make improvements to widen Ethonac to 4 lanes in that area to accommodate the projects. Core 5 also has to work with Caltrans because they'll be making improvements within Caltrans right away. So there's 3 jurisdictions that are involved here with this, not this project alone, but with the 3 projects that Core 5 are working on. So there is a lot of coordinated efforts. Core 5 has been working with Paris on some of the other projects that are driving the most of the infrastructure improvements on Ethonac. This one is the smallest of the 3, so its impacts are a lot less.
Do we have any residential project coming up on Menifee side near Ethonac?
Not in this general area. We do have a larger residential project that is quite far east of this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Joe. Any more discussion amongst ourselves? Any more comments, questions?
Yeah, I
concerns?
just wanted to add that this is going to be completed because we have RBBD funds, we have bonding, everything will be bonded for. So that's where I get my comfort, that this will get done. They've got too much into it to, it won't just not get done, is what I'm saying. What's that, Joe?
All right, anything else to add? Okay, anything else to add? Okay. All right, so there are 2 resolutions for adoption. We'll need a motion in a second to adopt staff recommendations. We're not adding, or, okay. I'm there with you. So we need a motion in a second to approve staff's recommendations. Hey, how did you go back to, yeah. Got it. Joe, is it up on your screen? Okay. No, take your time. Okay, that passes 5-0. Congratulations. Good luck with this. We hope that we know it's going to be a nice project, so thank you. Before we move on to the last item, I want to take a 3-minute recess, please, and that'll give time for those that don't want to see the awesome conclusion of this meeting to the end. Thank you. It's, do we have to say the time? 7:31. We'll take a few minute recess. if you could kindly exit, that would be appreciated. All right, we're going to get started again. If you're staying, please take your seat. If you're not, please exit the chambers. Do I have a sergeant at arms here? Hey, we're going to get started. Please take your seat. We'll wait for Ty to get back. If you're wearing an orange vest, if you live in Menifee, will you raise your hand, please? If you live in Menifee. Thank you. Just curious. We'll wait for Ty to get back. I didn't mean to rush it. I didn't notice that she wasn't here yet. We can go? Okay. Then we're not. We're going to go ahead. All right, we're moving on to item 9.3, the Marietta Road Warehouse. Could the Deputy Community Development Director please present this item?
Thank you, Chair. We have another warehouse, this one on the west side of the freeway, and Principal Planner Ryan Fowler is going to provide the presentation, and it's all his.
Okay. Good evening, Commission, members of the public. I'm here to present Marietta Road Warehouse Project. It's plot plan PLN 220179. The project's located to the west of the I-215. It's south of Ethanak Road, south of Floyd Avenue. It's east of Gary Road and west of Marietta Road, and then north of McLaughlin Road. To the west and to the east is vacant land. To the east is also Pacific Mobile Structures. To the south is the SCE transmission corridor, and to the north is some large lot residential homes. The general plan land use designation and the zoning classification for this site is the Economic Development Corridor Northern Gateway. And this project includes a 517,720 square foot warehouse industrial building. If you look in the EIR, they analyzed 3% more than that, just for a worst case scenario in case in final design there are some small changes when a tenant is identified. So they analyzed 533,252 square feet. That gives them just a little bit of a buffer of that 3%. Within that, there's roughly 20,000 square feet of office, 7,300 square feet of mezzanine office, and then approximately 506,000 square feet of warehouse industrial space. The building is proposed to be 55 feet tall. It has 90 dock-high doors, and those are separated, kind of divided in half on both sides of the building. And there's 4 grade-level truck doors. In addition, there will be 390 passenger car parking spaces. It includes 137 approximately square feet of landscaping that covers about 11% of the site. 10% is the requirement. They're providing 11. There's 14-foot high truck court screen walls surrounding both the northern and the southern truck court. And then there's 1.5 linear miles or 4.5 acres of roadway and utility improvements. And we'll get into the more details of what that entails. Just as background, on this site, on a majority of this site, there was a tentative track map approved by the county, and then it was later recorded after the city incorporated. It's that track map 31856, the one you see on your screen there. And the last year, there was an approval for a tentative parcel map 38469. That was April of last year. And what that was tentatively approved, what that would do is consolidate all those lots you see on the map there, the 78 lots, as well as in the lower right portion, there's a parcel map there with 4 lots, so it would consolidate all of that. Prior to any development here on the site of the warehouse building, they would have to consolidate all those lots and do that final recordation. The way the regional circulation will work is whether they're coming on north or south on the 215, they would go westbound on Ethanak, and then south on Murrieta Road. So the access would be via Murrieta Road to enter the site, and then they would have the option to access off Gary, which is on the west side, or Murrieta Road on the east side. The project was required to do a traffic impact analysis, a TIA, and that looked at, like the previous project, the cumulative plus project condition. Just as far as the project circulation is concerned, there's 5 driveways, 3 on Murrieta Road, 2 on Gary, and you see with the arrows there, the orange indicates where the trucks are allowed to access the site. They would go directly into the truck courts, and then the blue is just for passenger cars. The trucks wouldn't circulate through the passenger car drive aisles because they just access directly those truck courts. There's also, in addition, on the south side of the project, there is a truck driveway. So that way, when the trucks exit the site on Murrieta Road, they can make a right turn on that south driveway, and then turn right up Gary. You can envision that. As I mentioned, there's 390 passenger vehicle stalls provided. There's 194 trailer stalls within the 2 truck courts. This project is proposing to utilize one section of our parking code, this 9.2151070, and that's for alternative programs for parking. And what that allows is there's like a menu of options you can pick from that give you a reduction in your required amount of parking. So a couple of the options are listed here that they're utilizing. One is you get 5% reduction when you consolidate lots, which they are doing, which I just described. Another 5% option that they've elected is for roadway improvements and or dedications in excess of the TIA. So we're talking about that southerly truck driveway that allows kind of a looping system and those right turns around the project site. And there's other menu options that they are also implementing. There's a maximum of 15% that you can get as far as a reduction. They're asking for the 10% or 43 spaces to get to the 39. For the infrastructure improvements, first along their frontage, they're improving Murrieta Road to a secondary, which is a 4-lane. Currently, it's 1 lane in each direction. They're putting in, right out at each of the driveways on Murrieta Road. There is the option in their conditions of approval to do a left turn out, but that would require a traffic signal, and that would only be at the northerly driveway. But it's understanding it's the applicant's intentions to not exercise that option and just do the right in, right out. Also, there would be striping for southbound right turn access into the driveway for queuing for that. Gary Street would be improved to an industrial collector, which is a 2-lane. At the northern driveway, that would be full access. At the southerly driveway on Gary, it would be right out only for trucks. The truck route, as I mentioned, the truck driveway on the south side of the project, that would allow for westbound trucks along that driveway, and it's 32 curb to curb is the dimension. So allow for 2 westbound truck lanes. Other infrastructure improvements, Gary Street offsite improvements, they're required to construct Gary Street from the northwest corner of the site all the way up to Ethanak Road. That would be 2 lanes, 12-foot lanes with 6-foot shoulders. For the Murrieta and Ethanak Road intersection, their requirement in their TIA is to extend that westbound, on Ethanak, westbound turning south, the westbound pocket would be extended to 350 feet. And then they would need to widen the radius, widen that southwest corner, and they would be required to widen the southeast corner only in the event that they put in the traffic signal so that they can have left turns out, heading north on Murrieta Road. If right in, right out is what they elect to do, then they wouldn't have that southeast corner requirement. It wouldn't be necessary. They are also required to participate in that RBBD, similar to the previous project. They have fair share cost participation requirements in their conditions of approval at multiple intersections, including Marietta and Ethonac and Case Barnett Ethonac. They're installing utility improvements, including new water, recycled water, sewer, and storm drain lines. And then in that previous exhibit, I showed there was a new storm drain main line, 72 inches to 84 inches in Marietta Road that helps with the drainage on Marietta Road. And that goes all the way north of Ethonac and connects to the RCFCD, the Riverside County Flood Control District channel there. The project is proposing 137,000 square feet of landscaping. As I mentioned, it's 11% of the site. The requirement is 10. They're putting in trees at the perimeter within the parking area and adjacent to the building. The truck court is screened from Gary, but it's set in further from Gary and Marietta Road, so you have a little bit further of a setback from those streets and more landscaping that's intervening between those roadways and the truck courts and shields and buffers them a little bit more. Here's some renderings, 3D renderings of the building. These are the corners. As you can see, they include a varied colored palette with the whites, the grays, the deeper blues. They also have variation and articulation in the roof line and in the facade, glazing, substantial glazing at the corners, and metal awnings. And then here's just the two-dimensional view of the elevations. As far as screening is concerned, they have a 14-foot wall, but it's going to be 14 feet from the interior. From the outside, it's going to look like an 8-foot wall. You can see on the northern property line is the cross-section on the bottom right. So you have a 6-foot kind of embankment or berm that's going to be landscaped with trees along that northerly edge. And then from the outside, it'll appear like an 8-foot tall solid wall. On the southerly side, same thing. The site is set lower. The truck court is set lower. It's 14 feet on the interior side, but it'll look like 8 on the outside. And you have 25 feet of landscape setback on the north. On the south, you have 56 feet, and that's because of the inclusion of that southerly driveway. In this project, we analyzed it against the industrial good neighbor policies, and it does conform to those as well. This project required the preparation of an EIR, and that notice of preparation was sent out on November 7th, 2023, and then we held open to the public scoping meeting as required by CEQA on November 28th, 2023. There are mitigation measures in the EIR and in the MMRP, which is before you tonight, and those mitigation measures are in the areas of the biological resources, cultural resources, geology, and soil. That's primarily having to do with paleontological resources, greenhouse gas emissions, and tribal cultural resources. The two areas of the EIR where we have significant and unavoidable impacts is first the greenhouse gas emissions section. So that was identified as significant and unavoidable. There is mitigation included. However, it was determined that there's no feasible mitigation to reduce that to a less than significant level. It's considered significant and unavoidable because their operations would exceed the 3,000 metric tons per year threshold that the city has established. But keep in mind, one thing to note is that a large majority, like in previous projects that have been presented to the commission, a large percentage of that, 86% in this case, is due to non-construction related mobile sources, so the cars and the trucks, and that's regulated by state and federal standards, not by the city. The second area where we have a significant and unavoidable is the noise. So off-site traffic noise levels increases would be significant and unavoidable. Essentially, you're going from a street that has no traffic on it, not a paved road, to now having this project, the increase triggered that significant and unavoidable. And it's particularly that occurs on Muriel Road south of Ethanak and Gary Road south of Ethanak, and then Ethanak Road east of Murrieta. However, that portion, that segment was already identified as experiencing a significant and unavoidable by our general plan. In order to adopt an EIR with significant and unavoidable impacts, the statement of overriding considerations must be adopted, and in that it lists the benefits outweigh the environmental impacts. Some of those benefits are listed here, including enhancing the local economy, facilitating economic development, providing both traditional and alternative transportation mode benefits, transforming an underutilized site, creating high-quality development, proposing development in line with city general plan, and implementing employment-generating uses along the 215 corridor. When the draft EIR went out for its 45-day review period, that was back in from May to July, there was these agencies, organizations, and individuals that commented on the draft EIR. All of those comments are bracketed and responded to in our final EIR. And then for this public hearing, it was noticed again to those individuals and to our agency list and to property owners within the required radius. And we received comments from the 4 property owner individuals, as well as SoCal Gas, Riverside County Flood Control District, and Golden State Environmental Justice Alliance. Just one addition to this letter we just received at 4 p.m., approximately 4 p.m., from the City of Paris. That is also provided to you in your blue folders. So at this time, staff is recommending the to adopt a resolution certifying the EIR and adopt the findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations and adopt the mitigated monitoring and reporting program for the proposed project and adopt a resolution approving plot plan 220179, generally located south of Floyd, east of Gary, west of Murrieta, and north of McLaughlin. This concludes staff's presentations, and staff, the applicant, and our CEQA consultant are here to answer your questions.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the presentation. Just a little bit different than others when we were able to say, hey, back in the day, this was always zoned industrial, and we just kind of adopted it. But with that prior map of the residential units, residential lots, obviously, it's not the case this time around. So interesting turn of events there for us. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Specific questions for staff? Joe, you do? Okay, can you talk into your mic, please?
On page 75, transportation, I note that 3 items on this page under the potentially significant impact. A, circulation with a program, plan, ordinance, or policy addressing the circulation system, including transit, roadway, bicycle, pedestrian facilities. B, conflict or be inconsistent with CEQA guidelines. And C, substantially increase hazards due to a geometric design feature. So these 3 categories are classified under the potentially significant impact. So I wonder if the city can address measure to mitigate these problems.
Our only significant impacts in this EIR is related to noise and greenhouse gas. I think, maybe you're referring to the CEQA questions under traffic, it sounds like. But for those, we do not have a significant and unavoidable impact.
I'm just reading from the document. that I received on page 77.
On that page, Joe, does it say that those three things are significant and unavoidable?
Significant.
It does?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
If I can just add some, I believe Commissioner Long, where you're reading there's a initial study checklist that that we go by in order to evaluate the impacts, and that checklist has those questions that we have to answer and provide information to. So one other question is that this project from a circulation standpoint provides or creates impacts, right? And there's multiple questions that have to be answered. So to Ryan's comments, our consultant did prepare the EIR, and as it relates to traffic, there are no unavoidable impacts.
So what, for question B, conflict or be consistent with the CEQA guidelines, can you explain what the inconsistency is?
We do have our CEQA consultant here, but I think maybe we're looking at just what the question is. It's asking that question, would they potentially be significant? And the answer to that was provided in the EIR, and there is no significant impacts in those particular areas.
If I may, maybe I could answer the question. Good evening, my name is Kanya Dobreva. I'm with EPD Solutions, and we're the city's consultant who prepared the environmental impact report. Commissioner, before an environmental impact report is drafted, there is a checklist that says what the potential impacts might be. And so think of it as a workbook where we look at what could be a potential issue and we circulate that to the public and we say, here are the things that we're going to study. What else would you like us to study? So at the time that we did the initial study, we didn't have a traffic study. We sort of knew that traffic could be an impact, and that's why we checked and said it's potentially an impact, potentially an impact, potentially. We studied it. We had a scoping meeting with the residents. We heard about the issues in the neighborhood. Then we wrote the environmental impact report. We did the air quality study, the traffic, and that's why Mr. Fowler is saying once we did the traffic study, there were no inconsistencies or significant impacts related to traffic. So there's sort of that initial analysis, and then we did our homework. And once we finished our homework, we found that there was no impact.
So you are saying with this warehouse, a very large warehouse, there will not be impact with the new traffic generation?
There will not be a significant impact that's attributed to the project. So like we heard in the last project, there definitely are impacted intersections on Ethonac. There is traffic. What our traffic study found, and just like the prior project, we looked at all the warehouses, we looked at all of the traffic studies, and we folded, everything takes the cumulative impact in totality. And once the improvements to the intersections, whether it's signal timing, turn lanes, widening, once the improvements occur, compared to today, even with our traffic, it will have a better flow through the system than it does today because of all of the improvements, which I know is a little counterintuitive, but when you widen, when you fix the way that things work, the system can accommodate a lot more traffic. So that is correct. Even with our traffic, it would not make things worse.
Right. So your survey assumes the internet is going to be fully improved, right?
It assumes an interim condition and all of the improvements that are currently being planned as a part of the city's improvements, yes. Okay. And that's based on the city's traffic guidelines, and it was reviewed by the city's Public Works Department and approved.
I have other questions, but it kind of lost my mind, so.
I'll be here whenever you remember them.
Yes.
Joe, did that kind of satisfy your questions about that? For now, okay.
Yeah. In
Commissioner,
general-
if I just may ask her to, just to clarify, because I don't know if that question was misunderstood, so just to, for clarification purposes, does the traffic study assume Ethanak with all general plan circulation improvements as the baseline when the study was conducted?
I'm going to call up our traffic engineer to make sure that I don't misanswer.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Alex Garber. I'm with EPD Solutions, and our analysis for the interim condition with opening year did not assume the full widening of Ethanak. It assumed the existing configuration that is there today, and then recommended improvements consistent with improvements that have been recommended in previous studies along this corridor to reduce the deficiencies that were caused by the addition of trips by this project.
In your study, how many warehouses on the Menifee side you cover?
For the totality of the cumulative projects, there were 57 cumulative projects, both in Menifee and the city of Paris, that were included in our interim analysis.
And what's the radius of your survey for that 50?
I don't have the exact radius, but we included all of the projects that would add traffic to Ethanak in this local vicinity at the intersections that were analyzed from the freeway west to where our project is.
Do you consider residential projects to be online, to be built?
Correct. We include all types of projects, residential, industrial, commercial, any project that has started the application process at the time the notice of preparation was released for this project.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for staff? Go ahead, Chris. Randy?
Yeah, I need an explanation here on the GHG. And you said although the mitigation is included, there's no feasible mitigation to reduce the LTS levels? What does that mean?
Yes, so I can explain. So there is mitigation. However, it doesn't reduce it down below that 3,000 per metric tons per year threshold because, as I mentioned, 86% of the emissions are coming from truck, non-construction mobile sources, so trucks and cars, which the city doesn't have control over those emissions.
So you're saying they'd be there anyway? I mean...
As in, we can only adopt feasible mitigation measures that would reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. That is not a measure that the city would have control over, so we can't reduce those down, the mobile sources, the non-construction mobile sources down below that 3,000.
Is that real, or is it just a scientific theory?
It's part of the modeling that our CEQA consultant prepared.
So what is the LTS?
If you want to.
I think that's an acronym for less than significant impact, so it can't be reduced to a less than significant impact. And so while the project is reducing, they have energy efficiency, there's mitigation measures related to reducing their own greenhouse gas impacts that they're doing as a part of construction and operation. The trucks driving back and forth to this area of the city, right, whether it's this warehouse or any other warehouse, would have the same or similar impacts from from trucks driving.
But then on the next page, you say the environmental, the improvement to the area is going to outweigh the environmental problem.
Those are the required findings for you to make, right? As a reminder, the CEQA document is a public disclosure document. Right. It doesn't decide whether a project is good or bad. It tells you in a neutral manner what the environmental impacts are. So for this project, the significant and unavoidable impact is that. And then you get to make that decision of whether the benefits outweigh.
So I have one more question under the noise. It says that the off-site traffic noise level increases would be significant and unavoidable?
That's correct. Typically, it takes a doubling of traffic noise to even have a perceptible, to hear that traffic noise is increased. In this case, like Ryan mentioned, we're going from a dirt road that's really locally serving. There's really no traffic going through there except for local. And likewise, going south on Ethan is very similar. It's, you know, it's a smaller road. We're putting in a road, or this project is putting in a road, and there's going to be traffic.
You're talking about Geary, right?
Geary, yes, we're talking about Geary.
Yeah, because
Thank you.
Marietta's paved. Sorry,
It
I'm
is,
over here.
yes,
Yeah.
it is
We're talking about
paved.
Geary.
And we're also widening a portion of Marietta. So you're widening the road, you're putting more trips on it. But particularly for Gary, we're going from very low volumes to having a regular road. And the difference between what you hear now to what you're going to hear, while what you're going to hear is within the realm of normal roads, that difference from the existing condition to the built road is, it's a big increase and is considered significant and unavoidable.
So is that being determined by an acoustic report, or?
It is by an astute acoustic report. We have an astute acoustic engineer here, and it is also based on CEQA thresholds of what is considered. There's thresholds of what's barely perceptible, of what's noticeable, and then what's really noticeable. So because it's very noticeable, it's considered significant.
I've never seen this. put
It's
this
very,
way.
it's rare.
It's not normal, okay? It's rare.
It isn't, it's normal for new roads, and that typically is the only time, because how often do you double the traffic on a road? It's not something that, each incremental project doesn't typically do that. In this case, it's a rare situation. And we very typically see it when you put in a new road.
But it's recommended for approval, so.
It is, because it is a new street that's being installed, and so when a new street is installed, there is a noise increase.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, my apologies. I just wanted to make one point of clarification that for the statement of overriding condition, the statement of overriding considerations, excuse me, is that yes, there may be two impacts, environmental, noise as well as GHG, both of which our wonderful consultant has clarified, but that there are other reasons why agencies like ours can still approve a project despite those environmental impacts. And those are, as staff mentioned, economic, legal, social, or technological. I just wanted to clarify it wasn't that there is significant impacts and then suddenly there aren't, but there are other considerations that are important to the Planning Commission that you can consider if you decide to approve this project.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
clarification.
Thank you, Ty. IT, can you back that up to get to that page where it says the statement of overriding considerations and put that up? I just want to look at that. So they're saying that there are significant and unavoidable considerations, but then there's a page that, go one past that, one after that. There you go. So they're saying all of these things override the, yeah. Thank you, IT. All right, more questions for staff?
Yeah, is there any condition that the trucks leaving this cannot go farther south than the project itself? Can they enter into the residential and into, I'll call downtown Sun City?
South of McLaughlin.
South of McLaughlin. If not, I would like to add that condition.
It is not a truck road, a truck route on that. The truck was supposed to be coming, if you look on page A1 of the plant, they come from 215, turned south on Murrieta, and then goes to the driveway and go back up on Geary.
But I understand that's the established truck route that the TIA is based on, but can we put signage or create a traffic requirement or something on Murrieta Road heading south from the project that those trucks
And Geary.
and well, I don't think Gary even continues even farther south, does it?
I don't know, but I see what you're saying. We don't
Yeah.
want them to go.
We don't want those trucks going into Sun City. If 9 times out of 10 they're gonna come out the project, they're gonna go Gary, they're gonna go Ethan and get on the freeway. I don't want those trucks for whatever reason, they want to get lunch or it's packed there, so, oh, I'm gonna go down Murrieta, get on McCall and get on the freeway there. Can we make a traffic requirement that they are not permitted to head south on Murrieta?
Commissioner Thomas, I don't recall having a specific condition restricting trucks going south. Obviously, that was not contemplated or anticipated. We don't think it's going to happen. However, it is a good idea to add a condition that requires the applicant to restrict trucks, and by restricting, posting signs, providing information that would tell their drivers not to drive south.
So my only other qualifier on that is sometimes semis come down to service the grocery store on McCall and Sun City Boulevard and all that. How, maybe they'd be coming off of McCall, I guess. How would we functionally make this happen that the trucks servicing this warehouse and others north of it cannot come down, but other service vehicles can? I don't know how that happens.
Commissioner Thomas, that's a great question. Through the California Vehicle Code, it does allow trucks that are serving businesses that are outside of a truck route to access those facilities as long as they can prove that that's their point of destination. So if we do have a truck that does go down this corridor and it is noticed by the police department, they would have to provide proof that that's where their intended destination is.
So do you vision it being posted no 3 or 4 axle vehicles beyond this point, or whatever the signage is? Is that how?
Yeah,
that
we could work towards signage indicating such.
Okay, so I'd propose that that's included. We're already gonna have half of Sun City screaming about these trucks, so.
Yes. Similar question. For the warehouse, we have 3 kinds of traffics. One is delivery trucks, and the other one is pickup vehicles. Sometimes they are very small. Sedan, they pick up, we get delivery from Amazon with a regular small truck. So those trucks can drive anywhere. There's no restriction in terms of route. They can go through residential neighborhood. So we are talking about new traffic being generated through residential area. The big truck can be rerouted, can be limited, but delivery trucks, they can go anywhere. There's no restriction. So the concern I have is we are generating a lot of traffic for the local roads. The wear and tear is going to be much faster. So yeah, I'm concerned about the impact of those additional traffic on the local roads.
Orlando, did you want to chime in? No? Okay. So we're still asking questions of staff at this point.
Yes. One more
Anything else from
question.
you guys? No?
Yeah.
Ben, you have a question for staff? Okay. Joe?
Yes. On page 57, same question about greenhouse gas emission. According to the report, it's listed as a potentially significant impact, generate greenhouse gas emission. So what kind of mitigation measure would the developer ready to?
Joe, I think they're saying that there are no mitigation factors that are going to take those levels below the less than significant level. However, look on our screen here, the statement of overriding consideration. Those are the things that they're arguing override those greenhouse gases.
Right. So what I'm saying is we have to accept the pollution level. We have to accept there's not going to be any mitigation measure. We have to accept it.
That's something that we can discuss amongst ourselves once we get to that part. Okay. Yeah, but I see where you're going with it. Yeah. Do you have any specific questions for staff?
That's all. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to move on. We're going to open the public hearing. It's 8:16 p.m. Madam Clerk, was the hearing legally noticed?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. And did we receive any correspondence?
We did. It's in your blue folders.
Thank you. All right, the applicant is here. Would you mind joining us at the podium, introducing yourself, please?
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for hearing our application tonight. My name is Jamie McLaughlin, and I'm joined here by Peter Schaefer. We are part of Aries Industrial Management, and we are the owners and developers of the project. We're also joined by our Land Use Council and our civil engineer. Aries acquires existing and develops new first-class industrial properties across the country that we hold and manage for the long term. The long-term management and ownership requires us to design these buildings to the highest standards to attract first-class tenants today and into the future. We have significant development experience in Riverside County. We do not attempt to rezone property for new development. We develop industrial buildings on industrial zoned land. Can you bring up the slides, please?
IT, if you could bring up the PowerPoint for the applicant's presentation.
Next slide. The proposed 517,000 square foot building will be a Class A speculative industrial building that is consistent with the city's general plan and the vision for the northern EDC. The project will feature enhanced articulation and abundant windows and skylights with drought-tolerant landscaping. We've engaged the public through our EIR process and have held 2 community meetings. We are sympathetic to the comments raised by our neighbors and by the city of Paris. We have heard the concerns about noise, stormwater management, traffic, air quality impacts, and we've taken those concerns into consideration. Next slide. The project will feature a large truck court with 90 dock doors and 194 trailer spaces. The truck courts will be screened from public views by screen walls, landscaping, and gates to help mitigate visual and noise impacts. There's approximately 200 linear feet of on-site truck queuing at each of the 4 entrances. The abundance of parking and queuing provides for operational efficiency so that trucks stay off city streets and do not impede traffic. Regarding truck traffic, the project will not have any significant impacts on the level of service. Our site plan also includes the southern truck corridor. This roadway will be dedicated by all the surrounding developments and owners to create a corridor that will be used for trucks to limit the traffic along Efanac. Trucks will not be traveling south of that road, i.e. McLaughlin. The project will also participate in a larger RBBD and provide street improvements to the greater northern EDC. I'll now turn it over to Peter to talk through further community benefits and some of the air quality impacts.
Thank you, Commissioners. So regarding air quality impacts, we did see comments from the public that were written and also that we heard in the community meetings. So during the construction stage, the project's regulated by the city and the South Coast Air Quality Management District. A superintendent will be on site during construction. So fugitive dust is not permitted. And anyone may call the posted phone numbers for both the on-site superintendent and AQMD. AQMD can fine us and stop work at the project in the case of fugitive dust. On the ongoing operation phase of the project, warehousing and logistics is a low-intensity land use. If you could go to slide 5, please. The EIR did not find any significant impacts related to air quality. We completed an analysis using the same rigorous modeling standards as were used in the EIR to compare the proposed development against hypothetical alternative scenarios. So the top line is the proposed project. The next case is if the land was built out to the maximum density under current zoning for a 643,000 square foot business park. The next is a 375,000 square foot commercial retail, and the third would be a multifamily dwelling scenario. And you can see the impacts from all three alternatives greatly exceed that of the proposed project. Apologize, we did not include the GHG analysis in our slides here, but we did the same thing. In our case, the project generates 4,800 total CO2 equivalent exposure. The threshold for significance is 3,000, as Ryan noted. And that's regardless of project size. So if you have a 1 acre project, 3,000 is the threshold. If you have a 100-acre project, 3,000 is the threshold. So on larger projects, they will always exceed that threshold of significance. And in the case of the 643,000 square foot business park, they'd have over 32,000. So more than 6x the proposed development. The retail center would have 16,000. The multifamily scenario would have just under 7,000. So these projects over a certain size will generate significant impacts among some of the criteria. Much like the noise scenario that was discussed, when going from a dirt road lightly used to a new paved road that's going to be used more, you'll see a significant impact regardless of the use proposed over a certain project size. And in this case, of course, Gary is not just a new road conceived for this project. It is part of the general plan circulation element. We are improving that street from a dirt road to a paved road from the southern end of our project north up to Etenac. Moving on to stormwater management. So the project's low impact development stormwater management system collects on-site stormwater, treats it, and filters it back into the ground through massive infiltration chambers. The project will also construct off-site storm drain improvements that Mr. Fowler mentioned on Gary and Murrieta, including a new 72 to upsizing to 84-inch main line in Murrieta.
Can I ask you a quick question about the
Sure.
stormwater? You're only legally responsible for your on-site flows. However, sometime in this area, there's a lot of flooding. So off-site flows historically, I don't know, I haven't looked at the flow map of this, but can historically have flown off of other properties onto here, and that solves their flooding problem. So if you put something here, it's blocking it, it may create flooding on the others. Have you looked at the water plane on the surrounding residential?
I can answer that, and Luke, our civil engineer, is here as well to jump in for more detail if needed. But yes, so you're right. We treat our on-site water, but we are building that new storm line main in Murrieta. So this is in accordance with Riverside County Flood Control Master Drainage Plan. On Gary Street, there will be storm water management facilities as well, running all the way up to Etenac, where they'll discharge into an existing Riverside County Flood Control facility.
Will those new facilities capture flooding off of the residential that's to the north of you? Is there catch basins for that?
Yeah, so that hasn't, we haven't gone through final design, but yes, there will be catch basins along the way up Murrieta.
Does staff concur with that?
Yes, we confirm that.
Thanks.
Yeah, so anything over 36 inches falls into Riverside County flood control domain, and we have significant experience installing improvements according to their master drainage plan. So this will be a similar improvement to what we've done before in other projects. So I'll just finish up in closing. The project complies with the good neighbor policy, including all setbacks. Additionally, the building is pursuing LEED Silver rating, certified by the U.S. Green Building Council for construction and operational efficiency. There'll be electric vehicle chargers, infrastructure for electric truck chargers, and solar power. In the current market, we expect to lease this building to a warehouse and logistics tenant. However, this building has great bones, it's a great site plan, and is designed to accommodate a host of uses now and in the future. This development is a significant investment in Menifee, bringing a modern facility to a vacant site. They'll add hundreds of jobs. People don't need to commute to San Bernardino, Orange, and LA counties. It'll pay millions of dollars in development impact fees and construct well over $6 million in off-site public right-of-way improvements, including sidewalks, curb, gutter, paving, landscaping, storm drains, and undergrounding of the existing overhead power lines on Murrieta. The development will also be built substantially with union labor, ensuring good wages and local sourcing. That includes the Laborers International, the carpenters, electricians, operators, the plumbers and pipe fitters, and the iron workers. Appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any other questions.
All right, thank you, Jamie and Peter. First question is, do you agree to all of the conditions of approval?
Yes.
Okay, and would you also agree to an additional condition of approval of some kind of signage preventing trucks coming out of your development going south on Marietta and Geary, south beyond McLaughlin?
Yes, we would accept any signage conditions.
Okay, satisfied? Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have any questions of the applicant? Chris? No? Ben? Joe? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on this item?
There are. I have John Sisley, followed by Louis Lopez.
John, please.
Good evening. My name is John Sisley. I represent the Union Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and Refrigeration for San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm also a delegate to the Central Labor Council, Inland Empire, and the Building Trades Commission, State of California. Every one of these orange vests here tonight represents a family, a local family, that will be paid sustainable wages and benefits, and they will spend that money right back here in your community, in your grocery stores, in your retail, and that perpetuates the circle of life here in Menifee. These agreements are super important to everything you build here. For me, I don't understand why you would build anything without one of these agreements, because they really favor the community. This project allows our hardworking men and women to advance their careers while earning middle-class wages and benefits. Most importantly, the developer has made a pledge to hire local, skilled, and trained construction workforce members to build their vision, ensuring the highest quality build on this project, and the community's basic economic needs are met by supporting the people all around. This project is great for our community, and we strongly urge you to approve with your yes vote tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John.
Louis Lopez, followed by Rob Ramos.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, community. My name is Louis Lopez. I'm a business agent for the Ironworkers Local 433. I love coming to the city that my father resides in. One of the biggest things is that Bradley and Early Dawn live second house in, up on the light pole out on Bradley. There's a banner there recognizing his service with the Marine Corps. I love it. I served in the Marine Corps myself. And so I love this city for that, always recognizing the veterans and supporting them. And that's something that's dear to my heart with all the trades here, because when I got out of the Marine Corps, we didn't have helmets to hard hats at the time. Today, we're in partnership. Every one of the trades here represented are in partnership with Helmets to Hard Hats. That's an organization through data that helps us have direct entry for the men and women coming back from serving our country proudly. And what's good is I've got many members, and a lot of them exceed just because of their military bearing, because of their leadership, whether they came from ROTC up the ranks into boot camp, basic training, and then they get out, where do they have to go? That's why the trades here, I love being able to capture those men and women, give them something that's, because when I was in the military, I had no worries. My health care was covered, my everything. I go to the chow hall, everything was done. But when I came out, it was a whole different, it was wow. You know, gaining traction was a little hard. So with Helmets to Hard Hats and our apprenticeship program here, it gives those veterans another opportunity to not only serve their country, but now build their country. And that's what I like seeing, because some of my members have actually built the schools that now their children go to, you know, and they could go to those career days and they could speak on that. So when we got our applicant here that wants to come into the community, be a true partnership and include all the trades, that's something that really is transparent and shows true worth and transparency. So for that fact, I urge that this commission tonight vote and move this forward to the city council for full approval. And thank you for your time, and may God bless the city of Menifee.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you for your service.
Rob Ramos, followed by Zach Strasters.
Good evening, commissioners and chair. My name is Robert Ramos. I am with the Ironworkers Local 416 Reinforcement. We are here today seeking a yes vote from the commission tonight. Why? This project is great for the community. Like my fellow ironworker just said, it's a true partnership with all the locals, and it's going to help promote livable wages, stimulate the local economy. You know, some of our members had to go, you see some of the vacant seats. Why? Because they had to travel to West Hollywood to get an early morning shift. Projects like these could bring our members here to the local economy and stimulate and have more time with their families instead of driving 2.5 hours, sometimes even 3, trying to get home, right? Just to earn a paycheck. Jobs like this, it's beautifully planned, and it's gonna, you know, put our skilled and trained labor workforce to work here in the city of Menifee. And we are here asking for a yes vote tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Zach Strassers, followed by Walter Flores.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, commissioners. Always a pleasure to be in front of you. Always very erudite and thorough questions. So a couple quick things we want to point out. With Cara California, been in front of your dais several times. And as you well know, we don't just rubber stamp projects before we advocate on the community's behalf with regards to them. There have been many occasions where we were opposed to projects that came before you. So we take a look at projects on a case-by-case basis. And one of the reasons that one of the big reasons that we felt like it was important to support this project was in the arc of industrial construction, we take a look at the trade-offs. And when we see a project that fully embraces opportunities for various strata of economic mobility, we look at projects that have full support from labor. We look at projects that speak to future mobility and employability in a city. We saw that this was one that checked a lot of boxes. We also take a look at what's going to be the long-term impact and positive growth potential for a city as a result of a project. And one of the things I'll ask you to focus your attention on is infrastructure development. So in the arc of industrial, where a lot of people's concerns and complaints are traffic and environmental impacts, but those things are really tertiary issues based on how the industries develop themselves and regulate themselves. So when fleets become electric, then we won't be talking about GHG because construction itself isn't going to be that much of an impact. It's a limited window. And then when we talk about certain other factors that go in, we really are talking about things that ultimately will change as time goes on. on. But what will not happen is industrial will not always be viable at the low percentage vacancy that it is now. And so when you have private development that wants to come in and spend millions of dollars, impact fees, millions of dollars, when you have roads that are right now unpaved that are going to become paved and roads that are paved that are going to become enhanced, that private investment will not always have a desire, and we don't want to take for granted that that window is unlimited. So as these projects come in, we take a look at those, we look at whether or not they're giving their best faith effort to mitigate issues, and in this case we felt across the board that the answer was yes. So because all of the community voices that are here today are overwhelmingly in support, we want to come alongside of them and make sure that we are as well. So on behalf of the people of Menifee and on behalf of CARE California, we're asking that you support this project. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
Walter Flores, followed by Josh Gastelum.
Hello and good evening, honorable planning commissioners. My name is Walter Flores, and I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the Marietta Road Warehouse Project. I believe this project is going to help provide jobs, to help provide the unemployment rate, to lower the unemployment rate, and to help battle the families in these tough times. And so I also believe that this would be a big win and a big help to expand and prosper the beautiful growing city of Menifee. So for this reason, I urge you to vote yes to this project. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you, Walter.
Josh Gastelum, followed by John Fox.
Hello and good evening, Honorable Planning Commissioner Chair and Commissioners. My name is Joshua Gastelum, and I am here to speak in favor of the Marietta Road Warehouse Project being developed by Aries Management. This project is 517,720 square feet building, providing 300 plus jobs for the growing community of Menifee. This is a good opportunity for families in this community for generations to come, with good paying entry-level jobs. So please vote yes for this project. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
John Fox, followed by Andrew Mayorga.
Good evening again, members of the commission. Again, John Fox of Alshire and Winder. We serve as city attorney for the city of Paris. And as we did for the previous project, warehouse project, we must again object to this project. The city is very concerned about numerous environmental impact issues that were not adequately analyzed. We provided comments on the draft EIR. We do not believe the responses to those comments were adequate. And we did submit another letter today responding to the responses to those comments and addressing our concerns about various issues, including noise, and traffic safety, which is a significant issue for us. And again, as we said before, there is a global traffic study that is being prepared by both the city of Menifee and the city of Paris. And we believe these types of projects need to wait until that global traffic study is completed and that comprehensive list of traffic improvements are identified and funded so that all of the projects that are contributing to those impacts will contribute towards those particular improvements. At this point, there is no structure in place to make that happen. And so the city of Paris, again, encourages you to delay your consideration of this project for 6 months until that global traffic study is completed and we can identify the improvements and the cost of those improvements that can be allocated to projects like this one. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Andrew Mayorga, followed by Diana Haas.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Andrew Mayorga. I'm a proud member of LIUNA, one of 30,000 members here in Southern California, representing thousands of members here in Riverside County, representing hundreds of members that live in this community and around the surrounding project. Members that we couldn't ask to be here tonight because, like the young lady that was sitting right here in front of us that has to go to work at 2 in the morning, like my brother said that she's working in West Hollywood, Many of our members face those drives every day. They go to work when it's dark and they come home when it's dark. They miss a lot of time with their families. And it's unfortunate, but we choose this career path for all of us in this room, all of you sitting up there, all of us at home right now, watching on TV. We do what we do because it's what's best for this community. It's what's best for all of our communities. And when a developer wants to come and build in our community and put our members to work in their backyard and allow them to have an opportunity to stay at home for those memorable moments with those families, with their families, the little that they're gonna get, that's life-changing. That should be up there when it says, what are the positive impacts? I mean, you can't put a value on that. And this is why we're here in support of this project, and we're asking you to push it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diana Haas, followed by Bob Powell.
Hello, thank you for your time this evening.
Hi,
and
real
for
quick,
meeting.
I think there's a button. If you want to move that down a little bit, you can. It's your choice. Just wanted to let you know. Oh, it doesn't work? Sorry, IT says.
I stand on my
Sorry, that
toes.
won't count against your time.
Tiptoes. My name is Diana Haas. My family and I have resided in Menifee since 1991, and we love the improvements that are going on in our community. I am concerned about this new warehouse at Marietta Road. We live right off of McLaughlin and Marietta Road, so the noise and the pollution and the traffic is a big concern for us. I know you've stipulated asking that the trucks don't go south on Marietta Road, I think it was, but delivery vans, those 300-plus personal vehicles of the workers who are going to be there, we're going to get traffic going south into Sun City, into Menifee, and our McLaughlin is one block south of where the proposed warehouse is. That connects down to Barnett, which connects over to Marietta Road, or Ethanek Road. I know that's going to get a ton of traffic from the people trying to avoid the traffic on Ethanek and trying to avoid turning left onto Marietta Road out of the new facility. People are going to make a right, go down to McLaughlin, and it's just going to be a thoroughfare. We've got tons of residential, 300-plus homes right off of McLaughlin Road and a park. So I'm very concerned about the traffic that could be coming through our area. So that's one thing, much of my time. I would, as a resident of Menifee, ask you to hold off on approving the project until the city of Menifee and Marietta traffic thing that the Paris
Marietta
gentleman
and
spoke
Paris,
about is concluded, because I do think that will have an impact on our final decision and helping the improvements on McLaughlin Road, Marietta Road, and Ethanek Road. I do have a concern on the traffic report that was done that I pulled up online. I noticed that the signals on, I can't think of the road, Ethanek is missing a signal. There's signals at Marietta Road, there's signals at Barnett. It's missing a signal which is at Case, which turns into the Winco parking lot, and then there's the signals at the freeway. So there's already major congestion in the traffic there at Barnett, Case, and the freeway. And there's traffic all the way back up to Marietta Road. So this is going to impact the traffic a lot. I also have a question. How many unoccupied commercial buildings do we currently have in Menifee? Do we need another one? And all of the other ones extending up the 215 freeway. So how many of those are occupied and actually paying the city? And how many are unoccupied? and we're not getting those funds to help improve the roads. And I
All
think
right.
my time is up,
Yeah.
so I thank you for,
Thank you, Diana.
for your time.
Sorry about the tall podium.
Bob
Thank
Powell.
Thank you, Commission, for letting me address my concerns here. My name is Bob Powell. I live on Floyd Avenue. If you can pull that plot plan of Floyd Avenue, can you pull that up, or?
IT, will you pull that up, please?
Yeah. Anyways, I live on Floyd Avenue with several others here right now. The concern we have is noise, of course, the pollution, and 24/7 operation. There's a 25-foot barrier that will butt up to the residents of Floyd Avenue. And they'll be hearing backup alarms, air brakes going off, all that, 24 hours a night, all night long. The other concern I have is flooding. We flood out down there. Every time we have a heavy rain, we flood. It floods. And Floyd Avenue is a dirt road. You can see Floyd Avenue right there. That's a dirt road. So if they don't make no improvements to Ethanek and Marietta, they're only going to widen the road coming out of their warehouse. Then it's going to go down to a single road to the corner. Right now, traffic backs up in the rush hours of the day past Floyd right now because there's no right turn lane to go on Ethanek there. It's just 2 lanes. So if they pave Gary all the way to the end of Ethanek, we will be getting all the thoroughfare traffic coming down Ethanek, going to the freeway. When the trucks back up the intersection on Marietta and Ethanek, they'll turn right on Ethanek. They'll turn left on our street, Floyd, which they do. Dust flies, because it's a dirt road, dust flies everywhere. And then they'll make a right turn on Marietta to bypass that signal. So that's where we're at. That road's maintained by us, not by the city. We pay for that road out of our pocket. We maintain that road. The city doesn't reimburse us nothing on maintaining the road. And so right now we have an issue going on, and I'll address that at a different time. But that road is maintained by us, not the city. And so that's a possibility of warehouse traffic going up and down that road. Workers, they're going to employ 400 to 600 workers. We don't know. There's no guarantee they're not going to use Floyd Avenue to go to work and bypass that corner. There's no guarantee of that at all. So that's our concern. Our concern is the flooding, the noise, the pollution, 24/7 operation, and it butts right up to the residents on Floyd right there, right up. Anyways, thank you.
All right, thank you, Bob.
There are no more speakers.
There are no more speakers. I'm going to open it up and allow, if there's anybody else that wants to speak on this item, please go ahead and take your time this time. Can you give us your name, please?
Yeah, of course. Good evening, Jonathan Shardlow. I'm the Legislative Affairs Committee Chair for NAIOP Inland Empire resident, and we work closely with the city when you guys were updating your good neighbor policies, industrial guidelines. And those have very stringent regulations. I know that you guys recently approved a project that's half industrial, half residential on the other side of town, on the east side of town, that, Brookfield's project. The Fainland project was also approved in the northern EDC. We got to remember what EDC stands for. It's the city's vision for it to be an economic development corridor, to bring jobs to this area, to bring improvements, to bring infrastructure, to fix some of the issues that are existing today: inadequate access, inadequate roads, inadequate sewer, flooding. This project is a great project. I think there's a misconception about the difference between GHG, which is a global issue, versus air quality. But there are no local air quality impacts with respect to this project, even considering the mobile emissions. Any type of project, this is actually a low trip generator compared to a shopping center or any type of other mixed-use development. Really what this does is provides an economic and employment center for residents in the general vicinity, including Menifee, to not have to drive far, for jobs. So not just the construction brothers that are here tonight, brothers and sisters that are here tonight, but also operationally, this is a place for employment, and these are good jobs, and they are highly upward mobile. So I just wanted to just kind of start back from, this isn't just one project that just came in. This is part of the city's vision. This is what works here. Yes, there needs to be full studies with mitigation impacts. That's occurred, and I think this is a great site for this project. There's obviously the natural barrier to the south, with the SCE easement area. It's actually, they actually own it in fee, but there's significant buffering. And then again, 130,000 square foot of landscaping. That's pretty amazing for a site. That's over 2.5 acres of landscaping on the site. So that screens, that buffers, and so this is going to be a beautiful project once built. And so I'd ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Anybody else like to speak on this item before we close the public hearing? Sir, you're gonna have to join us at the podium. Sorry. There's 3,000 people watching on YouTube, I think. 2,500-ish. They need to hear your voice.
On that plot plan that just came up, it showed a neighborhood in that area right there. Well, the area's been rezoned economic development corridor. We were never notified as residents that they were rezoning us until all this started coming up. And then that's when we were notified that we were zoned economic development corridor. So I don't understand how that even came across on that. But I think the city should at least notify to say, hey, we're rezoning you. Give us the opportunity what we need to do. Because if this warehouse goes in, what's it going to do to the values of our homes? Who's going to come in and buy a home if I can sell my home for $800,000 with a warehouse right next door to it? It's going to devalue our property values. That's just my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Going once, going twice. All right, we're going to close the public hearing at 8:52. This is our time to discuss. Oops. This is our time to discuss amongst ourselves. This project, I'll start to my right. Turn your mic on.
Well, we obviously have both sides, and it's a tough one when you come to the residents, but then you see, like he said, he came here, you never knew anything about this zoning and whatnot, but you need to get more in tune with what we do. Come to our meetings tomorrow, but anyway, that's besides the point. I like the project. I think we need it. I hear Paris come every time and talk about us. I think we're all cooperating. I mean, I hear the workers and overall picture. I like the project.
Chris?
So I will vote yes on the project, but I'm going to qualify it with this. And I'm making this a public statement so that the city council hears it, that the purpose of the EDC was a mix of uses. This is a printout of the general plan. These are the EDC definitions. There's 5 pages of potential uses, 6 pages. It includes, one of them is warehouses, but it includes things like manufacturing, light, medium intensity, health and fitness, general retail, government facilities, equipment sales. I could go on and on. To me, the intent of the EDC was not to be warehouses. Unfortunately, every project that's come before us in the Northern Gateway is warehouses. I was here when the general plan was created. I was here when the EDC was defined. And I can tell you the intent was not to create warehouse city. I would love to see other projects here that will employ people building things like this that have other uses. This developer, it's not their fault because they have complied with all zoning development requirements. They've done their part. I would like to communicate to the city council to consider amending the definition of allowed use, permitted uses in the EDC Northern Gateway to stop these type of developments that keep coming to us. It is not the intended mix. So having said that, I'll also say that I could say that the majority, in my opinion, the majority of the city council people do not want nothing but warehouses in the Northern Gateway.
I would agree with that.
What's that?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So having said that, also the EDC is meant for job creation. And while warehouses do bring some jobs, there are many other jobs and other benefits from other uses that can be brought into this area. But as far as this specific project, They have complied with everything that we have legally required of them at this point. If, I would love to vote no on the project. I do not want another warehouse here, specifically just north of all the Sun City, all the senior housing. That is gonna be problems. But where would this go? This would go to an appeal to the council. The council then would potentially vote yes, no, and it would go to a lawsuit. All we're gonna do is cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits and create problems. So again, I'm voting for a project that I don't want to incur those expenses to the city. I do not think this is a bonus to the city, this project. I would like to see something else there. The developers complied with everything. We have asked them, so I will vote yes. That's my
All right, thank you. Ben, any contribution?
I don't know how to follow that. I mean, I don't disagree with what Chris was just saying. But again, I mean, it's hard. We're weighing the balances between all the different parties here. We've heard from multiple sides, multiple feelings. I don't think this is an ideal place or an ideal use of this spot, but again, the applicant has complied, and it is currently what is allowed in that. So I would reiterate what Chris said about City Council, which is outside of our purview, City Council potentially making amendments to that, but as it stands as of today, I will likely be voting yes on this as well for those reasons.
All right, thanks, Ben. Joe, do you have anything
Thank you.
you want to add?
Yes. Yeah, I would like to echo Commissioner Chris Thomas for his opinions. I think this is we are given a bad decision against a bad decision. So it's the devil, whichever way you pick. My concern is the pollution. The area, Ethanac area, there are warehouses on both sides of the city, north in Paris, south in Menifee. It's the highest concentration of warehouses in the whole area. And the pollution being generated, the noise being generated, the traffic being generated, tremendous. Somehow I don't fully understand how the road is going to be improved eventually, accommodating all the cumulative traffic. I urge the commission to really wait until we have a concrete idea when a timetable for the Ethanac Road to be fully improved. What I understand is the Ethanac Road is on the borderline between Paris and Menifee. So it's going to take cooperation between the two cities and all the regional agencies to work together to develop improvement along the street. And once again, the area being considered can be used for different economic utility. One really positive about this project, construction worker, I'm so happy to see all the construction getting the jobs. I would also like to get all the local folks working for the warehouses. Unfortunately, they are not here. What I know about the technology is actually warehouses are being operated by autonomous machines. So less opportunity for worker, while the opportunity for construction is tremendous. And that's one of the economic engine for Riverside County. And we should encourage, we should help develop programs to encourage more development. For this particular development, we are being given a bad choice with a bad choice. Either we're going to accept all the pollution or we're going to accept economic development. I think if we can improve the pollution control, we can develop economic development. So, but if we accept the economic development right now, we're going to accept permanently all the pollution. So let's solve it's the chicken first or the egg first. Let's solve the economic problem first, the pollution first, and then economic solution later. So I think I'm going to vote no on this.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Technical question?
I'm sorry?
Did you have a question? No. I have a question, staff. It was brought up that Gary, the property owners are maintaining it, but this project will pave Gary all the way up to Ethanek, right?
They were talking about Floyd.
Floyd, okay. But there was also a comment made about Gary. But just to confirm, Gary will be paved from the project north up to Ethanek. That's correct. And then it will also alleviate flooding in the area because of the mainline construction? Okay. Just wanted to verify.
Yeah, this is part of the conditions of approval 80, item A and 1. It mentions about the drainage on that part.
All right, gentlemen, my 2 cents. I like the project. I agree with your sentiments about having more options in the EDC. I love the building. I love the style. Obviously, they worked well together with the staff to design the building. My concerns are there are almost 30 homes. I think I counted 25 or 26 homes that are adjacent, immediately adjacent to this project. And I am very concerned about the significant and unavoidable considerations that we talked about, and I am not satisfied with the statement of overriding considerations. I am for these reasons, and I'm also concerned. One of the things that one of the speakers brought up that I was going to bring up, but he brought it up first, was the property values. These people live in our city. They own property in our city, and if we're going to build a giant warehouse in their backyard, their property values are going to plummet. For these reasons, I am not in support of the project, and I won't be motioning or giving a second in support of this project. Those are just my feelings. I don't know if I swayed anybody, but those are my feelings. And if anybody else has anything to say before we move on, you can add or subtract to that.
I'd like to ask Ty, a no vote on this would deny it. They can appeal it to city council, correct? If the council approves it, it goes forward. If the council votes no, what is the expected legal track after that as far as this project?
Well, that would be up to the applicant. I wouldn't want to answer that second
What are
question, but they can appeal it.
Potential legal tracks.
Well, they'd be able to potentially file a writ of mandate for the court to consider the determination made by the Planning Commission and the City Council.
I'm basing my decision on the significant and unavoidable and the statement of overriding considerations, which I think are defendable. Correct, and I think I personally think that's defendable. Do we have anything else to talk about amongst ourselves? Okay.
I do have one thing. Is there anything that, I'm thinking this from the tract of the net benefit here. Is there anything you would ask of this project that would mitigate any of those items?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question, and I put a lot of thought into this, and I think it's the right place. I think it's the wrong time because there's so many homes. I mean, we're looking at our screen. We can't see it on the screens around us, but our screen, I think I counted 26 houses that are literally right up against this thing, and we're going to be building a giant warehouse in their backyard. And I don't think that the statement of overriding considerations outweighs the harm that our residents are going to experience with this built right now.
That makes sense.
I like it. It's the right place. It's the wrong time, in my opinion. Anything else? All right, there are 2 resolutions for adoption. We'll need a motion in a second, and I think we're adding some wording about moving south on, we want to add that to the resolution.
So we would need a motion to adopt staff's recommendation, including that condition.
Correct. Okay, that doesn't pass, 3-2. Okay, we're moving on. Item number 10, discussion items. We have no discussion items. Item number 11, Community Development Director comments. I'll give you guys a moment to leave so we can finish up our meeting, unless it gets really exciting after this if you want to stay. Community Development Director comments?
None for today.
None, huh? Do we have anything to say about the theater project, madam? I know she's got something. She looks like she has something.
I was just going to remind everyone of the State of the City tomorrow evening over at MSJC, HCN Stadium at 6:30. Does that sound? It's a VIP event. It was ticketed, so you need to buy tickets.
To the VIP. Yeah. Yes. You are VIP. You're invited. Philip was reaching out to confirm. So. Yeah. Nothing on the theater. I mean, we can't tell us where we're at there, on that piece of land.
So on the theater, the city did release a request for bids for the demolition based on the council's authorization to move forward with the theater. We are reviewing those bids now and could be to council next month.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Nothing else to report? Okay. Thank you. Commissioner reports on committee activities. Future agenda items. All right. It is 9:08. It's a 3-hour and 8-minute meeting. We are adjourned.